wear Black Power Media gear, you can accomplish anything. You can play any and every position. Coaching, to kicking, to receiving, to running and juking. And, oh my goodness, I see that again in slow motion. Get off me. And you're going to have a lot of haters coming at you, but what you got to do is you got to shake them off, and get to your goal and accomplish it. And when that's done, it's a beautiful thing. I'm talking about going hard, extra, for that extra point. And when it's done beautifully, you talking about touchdown. Oh, and the crowd goes wild and they're celebrating with you and everything. Man, let's see that again. Nice.
Black Power Media, baby. That's how we do it.
Now go to blackpowermedia.org and get you some of that gear. Empower yourself today. Yeah.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.
What's up, world? Welcome to another edition of I Mix What I Like right here at Black Power Media. Again, I'm Jared Ball. Very happy to be your host. Joined, of course, by my main man, Geechee. Y'all, what's up, my man? How you doing today? What's the latest? How you feeling?
Damn, I was on mute. I'm doing well. How you feeling?
I'm as good as could be expected. But just do me a favor. Does everything sound all right on my end? Does everything?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, good. Thanks. Just making some new adjustments here and last minute, of course, and just making sure everything is right. Anyway, go ahead.
I sent you that link. I just saw Charlemagne had Umar on talking about Mumia and Leonard Peltier on his Hellas, whatever you call it.
Well, I don't want to get copyright things, so that will, I think, thankfully allow us to not have to suffer through it. I would want to, maybe we should do like a not by myself, but copyright has been killing that. Like they strike that and get stuff removed all the time.
Oh wow!
But that said, I didn't see the link, but I'm happy to chop that up a little bit later on. We do have a special guest joining us this morning, and so I don't want to, like I say to my students, I don't want to punish him for being on time. So let's get into this right now. We'll expect Brother Diallo to join us a little bit later on. We have other issues to get to. We'll jump in the chat and see how everybody's doing there. Shout out to all the remixers who are here live with us and those who will get here later and those who will see and hear this even after that. But joining us right now is and shout out to Brother Josh, who was with Aaliyah, works with us to help bring people on and find guests and help set things up. And shout out to Diallo coming on in. Good morning. So a couple weeks ago, as I remember it, this sort of story went viral of this brother who was, let me mute Diallo there real quick, banging away on the keyboard. I'm trying to do this introduction here, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to be professional and respectful.
Oh,
y'all can hear me?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. Yes. You don't hear us? You don't hear me?
I don't hear it.
All right. So while he checks his input output settings, let me just say, so this video goes viral of this brother who is, from what I saw, was being asked to, in some sort of ceremony, just to accept an award and speak positively about the police, and took the moment to remind everybody what the true relationship with the police actually is. and it was you know, kind of funny, and you know, not to be disrespectful of the topic, obviously, but it was to me a funny moment to see the police sort of get a little bit of a come up and have a moment turned on them. Go ahead, Diallo. Can you hear me? No. Can you hear? You can hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't think your mic is plugged in, though. I don't know if you're using a mic, but anyway, whatever. Anyway, the video goes viral, and I thought it was great. So when I heard that we had an opportunity to have his name, of course, Alex Mingus, come on, I said, yeah, let's do it. So here he is, and welcome to the show, Brother Mingus. It's good to see you. How you feeling?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you, and I'm looking forward to hearing you, if you would, tell us your story or the story of what brought that moment that I'm trying to describe. And Diallo, I'm gonna mute you again because I think the noise and the echo is a mess. So I don't. Yeah. Anyway, but so forgive me, Alex, for the stumbling through this intro. This is you deserve better than that. And I want to hear your story, but real quick, before we even get you started, I wanted to ask you: is there any relationship to the legendary Charlie Mingus?
Yo, not so. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. Not that I'm aware of. The Mingus name for me comes from my mom's side of the family, which is the white side of my family.
Okay.
And I've kind of questioned it, but I've always thought, like, I'm sure my Mingus family owned Charlie's family at some point.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And, I have no idea, but that's my assumption. And my grandpa on my mom's side said that the Minguses came in through North Carolina. So who knows?
Hey, who knows? I don't know enough of Charles Mingus's history to know how his might overlap, but
right.
In what way? But I just saw it. I saw the beard. I saw the look. I said, I gotta at least give it a shot. Anyway, welcome again. It's a pleasure to have you on. So, as I said, the video of you that went viral didn't offer enough of the context. So in trying to quickly prepare for this morning, I did look around to try to get some of that context and found some of your discussion in other interviews of what happened that day. And I think if we could just start from the beginning and you laid the context and explain what happened that led to you giving that now famous response on the steps that day, because I don't think a lot of us got to hear it. So please, if you would, lay it out.
I am a 42-year-old father and husband, and in the last almost 3 years now, I have gotten my permit to carry, and then I decided to do some I wanted to become a trainer because having a pistol in a car just wasn't enough for me. And so through some of my training, I've gained some knowledge, right? And so that day, I was driving my wife to work, and we came to a stoplight, and I heard what sounded like some shots, but I recognized them to not be really close, so I wasn't too panicked. And as I approached the next stoplight, there was a gas station off to my right, and I could see some folks running into the gas station like they was running from something, but I couldn't see a shooter. I didn't know what was going on. My light turned green. I started to go, and a van pulled out in front of me and blew his red light and pulled out in front of me and was swerving crazy. And I know in the video that the chief of police said that I followed this guy, but this guy just happened to be going the same way I was going. I don't seek these situations out. You know what I mean? So the dude was swerving, pulled over about a block down, and I pulled over some ways behind him, and he got out immediately, and I could see him bleeding from his arm. And so I kind of checked my mirrors, see if anybody was coming after him. And then I hopped out with a towel. And the first thing I asked him was, do we need to move from here? Do you know who that was? Is anybody coming after you? He said, no, I don't even know who that was. I'm not from here. I'm from Oklahoma. The guy just approached my van and started shooting. So I put the towel, tied the towel around. He was shot in the wrist. And so I tied the towel around above his elbow. And he was so animated and so hysterical. He was trying to call his girl, trying to call his boss, and I'm trying to tell him to calm down and try to sit down, and because he's leaking crazy. He's still bleeding, so I went back to the van and got a shirt and tied it up underneath his armpit, and then by now I could hear sirens coming. So I figured they're on their way for me, because I know my wife had called 911 from the van. There were other people coming out of the auto zone. I know they were on their phones. So I'm thinking of these sirens are coming for this guy who shot. And I didn't know that the shooter had gotten himself cornered back up by the shooting and had put the gun in his mouth, and there was a 90-minute standoff, and the police ended up taking him in without incident. But at the moment, I had no idea, so I assumed these sirens are for me. 9 squad cars raced past me, and I counted 9 squad cars because I was like out in the middle of this 4-lane street trying to stop them. Like, yo, this man is bleeding over here. One did stop, or finally, EMS stopped and an officer stopped. And they took him to the hospital, and one officer took my information, and he called me later that evening to tell me that the surgeons had to rush him into surgery because the bullet did sever his main artery, and had I not stopped, he would have died right there in front of AutoZone. Some months later, they sent me a letter from the chief's office. Wanted to give me this Medal of Valor. I am not a fan of the police, so my first mind was like, I'm cool. I'm not interested. But then I was like, well, maybe I can take this time to say something. So I said, yeah, I'll do it. And it was so important to St. Paul Police Department and I know that because they had a change of chiefs. So I got a letter from Chief Todd Axtell, and then a few months later, I got a letter from the interim chief, Jeremy Ellison. And so this was important to them that they give me this medal. And they told me they weren't going to have any media there. I told them that I was going to bring a camera person there. My good friend Toussaint Morrison runs on-site public media here in Minneapolis, and so he had a camera person come out. They wanted to do it inside the building, but I did not want to go in, and so that we did it outside. And it was mid-October, and it was a little chilly, but as soon as I got up there, I was warm. And I didn't know. I knew I wanted to touch on the amount of squad cars that passed me. But besides that, I was freestyling.
Right on. Hey, so first of all, I deeply appreciate the whole story, but in particular your conscious decision to turn that into to sort of politicize that moment, and to let them know that what you thought of the police and their relationship to Black people in particular. So yeah, I definitely, so thank you for that, and in doing that. Geechee, Diallo, do either of you want to jump in and say anything at this point? I don't want to just dominate the whole thing here.
No, I'm curious about this. So you obviously had the opportunity. It seemed like you paused when you was about to say, "I don't fuck with the police."
Yeah.
Like what was going through your mind when you was like, let me self-correct myself?
So I curse crazy, and I'm you know, I have big emotions, and I you know, but I also understand that at 5'11", almost 300 pounds, beard, tattoos, that I look a certain way, and I know that when given the opportunity to speak in these sort of on these matters, a lot of times it's hard for us to stay mono emotional, but I felt it very important to remain mono emotional and not curse because I didn't want to give anyone a reason to not catch the message. I didn't want I didn't want I didn't want somebody to be like, it's just another angry black dude mad about slavery and injustices, and so I kept it. I was trying very hard to keep it mono emotional and not curse for that reason. And I work in a high school, and I wanted the video to be able to be played in the school. Even though I curse crazy all day at school, I knew that couldn't be a good representation.
Right on, man. Also, all of that is that I love how all of that was thought out. So Ursula's asking something I definitely wanted to know about. What has been the response since that day?
It's been overwhelmingly positive, and the few negative comments that I've gotten, the other people in the comments have been chewing them up. So I haven't really had to say or do anything, and I think it's partially because I kept it very well. Thank you, Franny. I kept it very like there was nothing that anyone could be like, he was, and so I think that's a big part of the reason is that I haven't gotten much negative because I wasn't really attacking. I wasn't really, I wasn't angry. And so there was just points proven. And I think that's why I haven't gotten much negative backlash. But I also think it takes some time to trickle down to the underbelly of the internet. So who knows?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, how did it impact like your defense training or any of the classes that you do? Has it impacted nicely or not so nicely?
I've definitely gotten a little bump in students, but nothing crazy. I have been a little more I guess leery is the word. A little more leery of like, because we don't necessarily vet our students, and so whoever shows up is who shows up. And so I've been, I make sure I'm the only one who has a loaded pistol in the room.
I'm trying to think. Oh man, what everybody needs to forgive me here. What was the brother's name who passed recently? Who did all that grassroots reporting and was on our show a number of times from Minneapolis? I can't believe I can't remember his name at the moment. Somebody in the chat might know. I was just going to take a shot to see if you all had crossed paths, but damn, what was his name? Anyway, so what? No, not Glenn Ford, Cynthia. No. I'm talking about very recently, and he worked in Minneapolis, and he was covering those. And we even had him on the show during the trial of. And I can't remember anybody's name right now.
Derek Chauvin.
That's right. He was out there covering that trial. Mel Reeves. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
yes,
you,
yes.
Did you know Mel Reeves?
Yeah.
Okay, right on.
Yeah, he's
right
a legend.
on. Yeah, I thought I just listening to you in terms of work with the youth, he carrying a gun, and challenging the police, and I was like, yeah, you have to have
I
cross
think I
paths.
lost.
You lost. Do you all hear me?
Yeah, I think he went. He
Okay.
froze. I think he froze.
Okay, he froze. Okay. All right, let's see if we can get him to come back. Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, Mel was great. And apologies to him and everyone that my brain is just slow.
Bro, it's mad early.
No, it's not that, man. First of all, it's late for me. The day is already late for me, but that's no excuse. It's just no excuse. I just have a bad memory. But anyway, yeah. So if you would, speaking of Mel, then if you would just take a moment and just say a word or two about the context that I started off asking you about that led you to your conclusions about the police.
Sure.
That led you to feel the need to politicize that moment.
So I'm born and raised in North Minneapolis, which is our hood, and single parent, raised by my mother. My dad was in and out. And my mom did what she thought was best and sent me to a private school. And so I was one of very few Black kids and one of even fewer poor kids. But it gave me an early look into the other side. And through that, things are going to come up. All through high school, I went to high school in our high school is downtown. And so I took the city bus home, and that might've been one of my first a moment with the police when they pulled over the city bus that I was on. And I got to get my damn cat jumping on the counter eating butter. I can remember the police pulling over the city bus and getting on the bus and cuffing me to the hand railing, sort of without explanation, only to find out that I fit the description of somebody who had a gun. But I was just a 16-year-old kid going home, being arrested in a situation that I wasn't involved in, and having the store owner tell the police that I wasn't involved, but still going to jail. I've never personally been physically assaulted by the police, but I think some of that comes back to my privilege of being a light-skinned, well-spoken person. And being nearly 6 feet, almost 300 pounds, I think that gives me some grace. But then as time goes on, I remember Amadou Diallo. I remember, all of these things that led up to now, like when Jamar Clark was murdered by the police. My wife and I were still living over north at the time, and
froze up again. And I agree. And there's plenty of psychological trauma to go around as well. But yeah, go.
So when the 4th precinct on the north side was occupied after Jamar Clark was killed, my wife and I were down there the night before white supremacists came and shot some folks. Then Philando Castile was killed, and my wife and I marched from the school that he worked at to the governor's mansion. But then when George Floyd was killed, we now live on the south side of Minneapolis, and we're in between the 3rd precinct and George Floyd Square, closer to the 3rd precinct, where the police was ran out of and the building was burned. And so during the uprising, things were hectic in our neighborhood. I mean, in the city, but our neighborhood specifically. And me and my kids and my neighbors spent many nights holding down the block to make sure that people who weren't supposed to be there weren't there. And we've just seen time and time again that the police, I mean, I'm sure the four of us and anyone who's listening knows that the police are there to protect rich white people's property. They've always been that. If you start out as a slave catching unit, and that births our criminal justice system, how can that benefit people? But we saw it, we saw the violence from the police here in the uprising. But then I saw violence in another form in their lack of.
Yeah, and violence in the form of their interrupting the connection to this stream. We can add that to the long list of violence. Yeah.
Yeah. Them passing me by, but passing me by and knowing that there would be no consequence if that man died. They do not have to preserve life. And so I like, what is the point? They don't stop crime. They respond to crime. And in the off chance that they do stop a crime, it's usually because they've stumbled upon something. I just don't understand how more people can't see the both direct violence and indirect violence that we receive from the police.
Right on. Yeah, Geechee, go ahead. You said you had a question.
Yeah. So I was kind of doing a little bit of background research on you, but so the Atlas Defense, I guess the brother or the person, Mark Manuel, is that? So it seems like he has like an extensive background with like military police, training police, studying law enforcement. Like, does that conflict with your thoughts on the police, or does he inform you about some of the bullshit that police do? Like, how's that like relationship with?
So I met Manuel. I was right after during the uprising. I was working for a company called Service Master that did like restoration cleanup, and we would do like if you had a water loss in your house, or we clean up after suicides or homicides, and so there was a hotel sort of right in the midst of things that was set up as a homeless shelter, but then things kind of fell apart and it went to a madhouse and the whole building was destroyed. 140 rooms, every door kicked in. I mean, thousands and thousands of hypodermic needles. I mean, the whole place was destroyed. And so we were in there to clean up. And one of the guys working security in that building was telling me that, oh, this guy over here trains people and can give you your permit to carry. And at the time I didn't have mine. And so I approached Manuel and was like, hey, what's up with the training? He gave me a flyer, and then we quickly became friends. And he is more of an abolitionist, I think, than I am. Yes, he was in the Marines. He was military police. He trained foreign police. And he also worked for a private security company, what we really know as Blackwater. And so he has a wealth of knowledge that he, through his own awakening, has been like, oh, he understands how he was a pawn in his whole thing. He understands how the military industrial complex runs now, and he is taking the knowledge that he has and trying to alchemize it for the common man, so we can arm ourselves and be as prepared as others. He is someone that I trust with my life, and I understand that there could be questions brought up about his past and his part in spreading imperialism, but he is doing the work to shake that and training people. We train people. I like to say we do firearms training without the misogyny, without the homophobia, without the racism, because we feel it's necessary for people who look and think like us to have training from people who look and think like them.
Diallo, you jumping in? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, my favorite part of the statement was that riots work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was raised up. You know, I also attended a private school, and I was taught that every freedom came to Black people through peaceful, passive, nonviolent protest and prayer. So,
Right.
you know, can you expand on that? Because that's what stuck with me the most.
So
yeah, hold on, because when they said that they were,
It's wrong, bro.
I just wanted to get that in there real quick. My bad. I couldn't help it. And I also got sent to a private school, and by the way, and realized was being thrown into the deep end of the race and class spectrum, because I didn't realize how poor I was.
Man,
and I always remember that pickup line of the cars coming, and it'd be like Mercedes, BMW, and then my mother came in that Toyota Tercel. And I was like, wait a minute. I was like, hold up. I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's
the light had been shown. When Amir Locke was killed here in it was February, the city was very lucky that it was freezing ass cold out, because it would have been another uprising. But when we marched from the Bolero Flats apartments to the first precinct in downtown Minneapolis, they had the police department had their grates down, but on the grate someone had painted "Riots Work," and I said, damn, somebody spray painted on the police station "Riots Work." I said, okay, I kind of dig that. And then a few nights later, I had been given the mic for the first time at a march, and I was again freestyling, but not doing a good job that evening, and my words kind of escaped me, and so I just said, "Riots work," and you know, there was a few murmurs, and then I said it again, "Riots work," and everybody kind of, and so then I have a buddy that I work with that he wouldn't do the same things I do, and his role in the movement is more of a hands off, and so he's always been like, man, that was dope. I really like that you said that, and so when I was leaving work that day, I told him, I said, hey, Beef, I'm gonna see if I can slip Riots Work in when I go out here, and it ended up working. But I say it because it's very true. Nothing in this country has moved forward without some sort of violence, from civil rights to gay rights to women's rights to worker rights. Everything has come from some sort of violence, and some sort of civil disobedience. And so however people want to take that, that's been the piece that people have sort of glommed onto and been like, oh, well, you know, why would you say that, right? And look at your city now, and how is all it? But, you know, you can take it in a literal, like, go tear some shit up, or in a metaphorical, where, like, in any instance, if you're a child in the classroom and you feel like something isn't going to make some noise, you know, don't stand by, because it is true what our people used to tell us, that, you know, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And sometimes you got to light a car on fire or light a building on fire to get what you need.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's dope too. That's one of the lines that I like. And then I was also curious, like, do you guys is there any type of like political education that you are doing, or because I would assume that, you know, saying Riots Work on that platform, people would kind of want to know more. So is there any like plan, or are you already doing that? Like any type of political education with the like defense group?
No, what we focus on with Atlas Defense is personal home and community defense. And right now that looks like getting people their permits to carry, running dry fire classes. So that's running classes with no ammo and just getting comfortable drawing the pistol, getting comfortable extending the pistol, getting comfortable shouting commands, building muscle memory, situational awareness, de-escalation tactics, some escort holds. But I think for me personally, I am not interested in playing any political game. I've had a few people reach out from our local government that wanted to sit down, and I'm down to sit down and have conversation, but I don't see myself doing any political work, and I can't speak for all of Atlas Defense, but I don't see Atlas Defense as a group. Now, I'm thinking of this question in a two-part. So on that side, no, I'm not interested in doing any. But on more, I guess, getting information to people helping people understand how our government works, and helping people understand where they can help themselves is part of what the education piece. Helping people see, like just trying to help people open their eyes a little bit to how the politics work, as far as the whys and the hows. But we don't have that specific piece set up.
Anyway, right on. Listen, go ahead, Diallo. Go ahead.
Well, it's just very interesting to me. Coming up in the Midwest I came up in the Missouri-Kansas border, and to see, leftist gun enthusiasm or leftist gun awareness is just really, I know it's not as rare as some people might say. It's just that the left doesn't tend to, display our
right.
Interest in armed self-defense or armed insurgency, you might say, as the far right does. So I came up around many militias. The biggest militia at the time when I was coming up was the 52nd militia in central Missouri, Columbia, Missouri area. So do you guys have ever overlap in your efforts of promoting gun awareness and safety with the right wing? Do you sometimes have right wingers or, Boogaloo Boys, Proud Boys, Promise Keeper types come into your space and seek services or some type of collaboration? And if so, do you guys work with the other group, the other side?
No, I don't. If we have that energy in our classrooms, we suss it out, and we've asked people to leave for poor attitudes. In a free market, people can go anywhere they want, but we also have the ability to say, no, we're not going to work with you. And I don't see, for me personally, I would not be interested in working with anyone from the right now. Like, I don't see how that could work. Like, what would be I don't see what the purpose would be. We don't align on anything besides firearms. And I'm not trying to change anyone's mind, and I'm not interested in befriending a Nazi to hope that they can open their eyes. So the short
message.
Yeah. No.
Good. I
He said,
no, God.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, literally, I'd go to some gun shows and some of these groups, recruitment groups. When I was in college, the militias would set up tables in Midwestern and rural campuses, and they'd be giving away copies of the Turner Diaries along with their literature. Man, it was so. Like I said, you know, I don't really think the left has a gun culture, but just practical and strategic and material.
Right. And that's one of the things that first comes up in our permit to carry class is, you know, some of the reasons why people get into guns, right? Protection, hunting, and sport, and identity. And we try to stay away from the people who are identity driven in their seek to get firearms. Yeah, for us, it's not. For me, firearms does not define me. It's just one piece of me. You won't see mad pictures of me with my pistols. Anytime you see pictures of my guns, it's because we're out training. I'm never going to be in the house just taking pictures. I'm not going to just put on all of my gear and put, you know what I mean? Like that's, for us, it's not, it's just a piece of the pie. Whereas on the other side, a lot of times the guns is like, that's without my gun, I am nothing. And that's just not how we rock.
Right on. Hey, listen, Alex, please just let me thank you once again for coming on this morning, and to let you know that this show, this platform is an outlet for you and yours doing that work, and just add us to your rotation and be in touch at any time. Yeah, Diallo, go ahead.
What you do with your medal?
The medal I gave to my dad, and then the plaque, the frame plaque they gave me, my mom has.
Oh, that's sweet. It's a mama's boy. You just out here.
Absolutely.
Was it real gold?
No.
All right,
No.
So yeah, that's it. I ain't doing no heroics.
If it was,
it real. It looked real on the camera.
Was it vibranium?
I hope.
I never.
Yeah, good luck trying to trade that in.
I never would have done nothing, so I don't know. It looked real.
No, I mean it was real metal, but it ain't no gold.
It ain't real gold. All right, next time.
Next time he said.
Right.
Yeah. All right, my man. Take good care, man. Thanks a lot, man. Peace, because we know you're willing to fight for it, man. Definitely,
Appreciate
for sure.
it.
Take care.
Absolutely.
Take care of yourself. All right. All right, everybody. Thanks. Big shout out to Alex, Mingus, and Josh for setting that up. Let's just take a quick break and come right back and get into some of these other things here. And I mix what I like. Don't go anywhere. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. All right, fellas, right on. That was dope. And heard some things I hadn't heard about that whole story in the context. So that was right on. Anyway, where you all want to go first? Anybody got something they want to start us off with in terms of the roster of stories? And sort of to the point you raised, Geechee, I had been kind of going down a parallel rabbit hole in terms of our dear friends on the white left and their media work. But where do you all want to start this morning?
I mean, let's Cash Money BG, Brittney Griner.
Oh, BG's due to get out this year too, though. The original BG.
He should have been home 3 times.
Who we talking about?
BG the rapper.
Griner is home.
Oh,
but we talking about BG the rapper too.
BG the rapper.
Cash Money.
Cash Money is an army.
Better than the Navy.
And if you ever play a hate me for you, it ain't gravy. Copper City.
I think it's the gray, and you from DC, so you don't know the South. You don't know the South struggle.
Sorry, I missed it, but I want him to be free. I don't have to know him to wish him to be free. So
I'm on the battlefield.
Hey man,
Hey, man.
But yeah, he
Well,
got
yeah, we-
locked up on weapons charges and witness tampering. You know,
Yeah.
they
Everybody
were-
else came home. Turk came home.
Turk is
Wayne
home.
Wayne came home.
Wayne did
Juvie
a year at Rikers Island. That ain't a real bid. You don't get stripes for that.
Juvie ain't never got caught
Rikers
up.
Island isn't a real bid. Is that what you just said?
No, I said he only did a year.
Oh, that's not enough
You gotta,
time.
you gotta pull at least a nickel. I mean, this is jail politics, man. You got to do at least a nickel. You can't come off. No, that's like time served type.
Yeah, I'm not built for that. I did 48 hours or 36 hours in a holding cell in Ocean City, Maryland, and was ready to snitch on everybody.
I be counting the time they put, you know, when they take you to the back for shoplifting in that room in Walmart, that back room with security, I count that.
Hey, Jared said, "Come on out to the precinct. They got us. They got us."
I was like, man. Anyway, they've had me that joint with that big ass biker dude. I was like, man, y'all better get.
I've been in the mall. You know, shopping malls back in the 90s used to have little jails, like back in the back.
God damn.
I count that.
Well, LP, lost prevention people,
like bars and everything, like some Barney Fife type stuff. They put you in jail, wait for the cops to come get you. And the cops would come and get you out of the mall jail and take you to the parking lot and release you. It was literally catch and release. And they give you a citation to show up to court. So I did my bids.
What you over there boosting? You was boosting?
Trespassing in the video arcade.
Oh,
the Street Fighter game took my token. So I wanted compensation because the game didn't boot up. And the guy was like, "Get out of my face and get out of here." So I told him, "What, you think I'm hustling quarters?" You know, so long story short, you know, I had to do my bid. You know, they took me down for refusing to leave. I had a trespassing citation.
Damn.
Hard not life.
So yeah, I was behind the walls. I've been behind the wall. I just want to tell the young brothers out there, don't do like me. Don't go.
But they
behind their mall security.
But they ain't do.
It's real back there though. And I'm not kidding. People have written on there like, you know, Marco was here. You know, gang, and people had like there was like inmate graffiti on the walls in the mall jail.
Hey, like you said,
everything
counts.
This is the truth. Later, there was a class action lawsuit against Ward Parkway Mall for discriminatory actions. They were arresting and detaining mostly black
I'm
males
sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
and black people for minor offenses.
Yeah,
and the judges just started having to just throw out those citations because they were just dozens and dozens. So it's real.
I'm sure that's yeah.
You hear
no
y'all
doubt.
laughing, made you feel bad. Look,
now you that brought it back to reality. No, I get it because I know they're doing it. But
heart
liberals. But you just sitting there with the
y'all
behind the walls talk.
Now it's real, right?
So first of all, shout out to Jackie Lukman who clearly called this whole thing. She called this whole thing from jump, and she said it was about Viktor Bout. She said it was about them trying to extract something. And the only thing I will take credit for is that I said the only thing I had added on that I remember for sure was that the Democrats would take all the credit for it and would use it as a way. And already this morning, just before we went on, I did watch a few minutes of Roland Martin's show, and he may still be live now. And Roland was doing exactly what I knew was going to happen, even beyond the headlines that I have already seen about praising Biden and the Democrats. And he went into this whole thing where he condemned another ball chaser, Diallo, some Dallas Cowboy who made some comment not fully supporting Brittney, and said something about, and then and went worse by saying that we're still not going to vote for you, Joe Biden. So Roland had a whole moment. Yeah, Geechee, he had a whole moment of how dare you talk bad about Joe Biden, who is saving our dear sister. So That's all I wanted to say to start us off. Go ahead. Yeah.
I wasn't gonna say nothing about it. I had went at least almost 45 minutes to an hour without saying anything about Brittney Griner, because I was going to allow the community to enjoy this. I was going to allow the community to have this, because I mean, socials went crazy. Brittney Griner dedication page, that one rap video started, or that Negro spiritual that those sisters wrote. Y'all, you didn't see that? They had like you didn't see the Brittney Griner song where
they did a song?
Yeah. Oh, they had a Brittney Griner lookalike. It was this tall, light-skinned sister with locks. She was in there in shackles and chains, and these sisters were all around her, him and her. But anyway, it burned my soul when I saw the headline, "She's safe and she's coming home." When Joe Biden and the way he would milk that, that just burned my soul, knowing he is the architect of the crime bill with Strom Thurmond. You know, he is the architect. He oversaw more than a doubling of the U.S. prison population. And I'm like, y'all, really, you know, going to let this man pretend like he cares about an incarcerated black woman? You know, and there's a difference between a political prisoner and a political pawn, if you ask me. You know, all prisoners ain't created equal. And Brittney Griner, I mean, everybody out of jail.
But to your point about the mall, she was still being over-policed and over-surveilled and over-punished. So even on that level, if you,
but Biden don't get to talk about she's coming home. Biden, she's coming home. Biden,
no, that's for real. I'm with you on that. Absolutely.
Biden could walk in the Oval Office with a pen and free dozens of black people in prison.
That's
free
Free
black
Lumia.
people in exile, political prisoners, political exiles. People walking around with felony convict. He has a pen right now. He could, if he really wants to talk about coming home and atone for his political sin.
Listen, I feel that. So how do we balance this? So when you see her wife on TV, and you can see Biden is literally using her and doing this political, theater. Like, how do you balance this? Like, yeah, cool, we're happy for her, but then pay attention to the political message behind it. Like, for instance, she's saying that we're gonna bring Paul home, and we got other people. Like, she didn't mention anything about political prisoners or people falsely accused here, people locked up for marijuana. Like, she didn't say any of that on the platform. So how do you balance letting the people celebrate and being happy for her, but also like, like they using her and this is theater for them?
I don't think there's a way to balance it. And I don't even know, before she answered to the hood, she got to answer to the LGBTQ community.
Here you go.
She needs to answer to them. Well, she's the one who was on the cover of Advocate magazine and a website. She's the one who had the rainbow sneakers and was a prominent voice in that community. And then you in a country, like, I mean, it just, that'd be like if I told y'all last night, if I went to Saudi Arabia and got locked up for blasphemy, and I'm over there trying to make some money because I only made about $200,000 to $300,000 in America, and who can live off that? So I went over to Saudi Arabia to get the bag, and they catch me blaspheming, and I get locked up. Like, I'm not going to go to a theocracy as a prominent atheist. Why would you
walk around Chicago and talk shit about Farrakhan?
Yeah, until he gets elected. Until Master Farad and Elijah Muhammad come back and bring about the retribution. If he was head of the state, I'd have to go inside.
But the point is you can't. I don't think, again, we've done this before, but I just can't agree with this whole thing of she shouldn't be. There should be no concern, or she's got to deal with the LGBTQ community because she dared go to Russia for her job, for her career.
Yeah, I just think, you got. I'm big on loyalty, bruh. Russia had a boycott, so you didn't mind the artists that went to South Africa during apartheid when there was a cultural boycott of South Africa, and so when Stephanie Mills went there to do a concert, and you didn't mind when Whitney Houston went to Israel to perform after at the earliest stages of the boycott and divestment movement. So you think that when it's money on the table, I'm quoting you, when there's money on the table,
you're quoting me?
Cross picket lines and violate international boycotts.
So how about this, Diallo? So she talked about not disrespecting her country, and she knows that the U.S. and Russia relationships is what it is. Her dad is a Vietnam vet, a police officer, and so she got pride in her country. So she still went to Russia. So would you say the same thing about like her family and the military?
No, because no. It's just I think there's certain places, like I mentioned, Saudi Arabia, Russia, even Uganda, that are violently and viciously and relentlessly persecuting members of the LGBTQ plus community, where people are being incarcerated, and the larger movement are boycotting and speaking out against that. So if you are a prominent and vocal and public member, as a unapologetic vocal atheist, I'm not going to go to a theocracy. And I'm not saying that there's nothing perfect like that, but there does come a time, I wouldn't set foot in Israel. It's just certain things you just don't do. So, I mean, there's a lot of places we can go on this planet that aren't perfect. And the place we coming from, the United States, is the least perfect state in that we can identify. It is the throne world, the throne nation of white hegemony. But I just say that as coming up, looking at the South African boycott and the BT boycott and divestment and sanction movement, when you are a prominent and vocal and public person for a certain movement, it's not just bad optics. It would have protected her. Ideology isn't just something we flaunt or articulate. It's something that we're supposed to use to guide our decisions in order to protect and ourselves, and to as well as advance our communities. So
I think all of these. I think Diallo. I think you make a strong point. If I don't fully agree at this point, I at least acknowledge a strong point. I guess my only hangup is the whole vitriol directed at someone who got locked up for something I don't think she should have gotten locked up for, and I just don't think that's really all my discomfort is. Everything you're saying about the politics, everything you're saying about her decision to go there, I can fully agree with. I think makes perfect sense. But where we definitely agree, I think all three of us definitely agree on this, is the false way that people are attaching themselves from Biden on down, from Biden to Roland Martin, are using this to falsely prop up or fraudulently prop up very reactionary liberal politics. But I'm cool. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask this. So I saw something, an article explain how it was the publicity that was surrounding this and celebrities posting criticisms of Biden on social media and telling him that he need to quickly secure her, and that was the major role in the outcome. Would you agree with that? And how because again, we always talk about celebrity analysis and celebrity influence, and when they say something and make it important, would you agree that was a deciding factor here? And then that kind of like pivots to the question of like, maybe we talked about a couple months ago about, Kalonji asking T.I. and Killer Mike to say something about KJ, but, obviously didn't pan out. But what do y'all think about this particular case and the celebrities getting behind her?
I personally don't think that really moves the apparatus of the state. I think Biden was consulted by his intelligence apparatus and members of the national security state that move him. So I've never really seen celebrity move the government at that level, even though I think the government uses celebrity, but I don't think celebrities are able to move the government. And one thing we do know about past deals of this nature, the public nature, the ticker tape parades and the celebrations and all the shit when it comes to that we see on the surface. We know that there's a lot of behind the scenes negotiation and a lot of deals and exchanges that they don't make public. It's like with South Africa, with Mandela's release. And there was a lot of back-end deals and discussions about IMF loans and resource licenses for extractive industries of Canada that were discussed surrounding Mandela's release. But we just thought it was a change of heart, you know. Yeah. And so
even Mandela in his own Long Walk to Freedom or whatever that book was, he even basically says he admits it that deals were made, and even specifically the what's the word I'm looking for, the turning away from armed struggle was part of it, and he even acknowledged that. But again, having, you know, I was willing to snitch on things I had never done after 30 some hours in a holding cell in Ocean City. So I don't, who knows what I would be willing to compromise after so many years at Robben Island. But the fact remains, it is what it is. But real quick, yeah, go ahead.
But he didn't do his full time at Robben Island. They took him to, he was basically,
you're right, he had it easy.
Like Napoleon.
You're right, he had it easy. He was chilling.
Yeah, he was kicking it.
He was chilling.
He was a prisoner.
It was easy. I know, it was easy.
Like that maniac woman in Myanmar. Remember the woman they wanted to free from the Myanmar genocidal maniac that they gave the Nobel Peace Prize.
Let's not look. I'm with you on all of this. I'm very Chris Hani, Steve Biko, Winnie Mandela in my South Africa Azanian struggle. Okay, but we got to at least acknowledge that Nelson was a genuine revolutionary in the 30s and 40s. That's right. And he did do legit hard time for us, however many years you want to credit him for. It wasn't. So let's not just skip to the easy part, you know. But all right. Yeah, go ahead.
You know, if I spend the first half of my life, I don't know, being a vegan, and then, you know, all of a sudden one of my uncles died and I inherit one of the biggest cattle ranches and I become one of the biggest manufacturers and distributors of beef, do I get to rest on my vegan legacy when everything I did in the later half of my life literally subverted what I did in my early life? Do I get to rest on the good things I did in the past if everything I did in later years of my life, when I had real power, when I got into power, you know,
he never had real power. He never had real power. He never had real power. And even Hollywood couldn't deny that he didn't have real power when they made that abomination of a film with Matt Damon about the South African football team or whatever. And Morgan Freeman was playing, wasn't he playing Nelson in that movie? Didn't I have that right? But that one line where they explain, I think he's speaking to one of his assistants, and I think she actually says something to the effect that the whites still have the banks and the military.
Okay.
But all I'm saying is come on now, stop it. The chat is y'all stop playing, stop trying to incite something. The response would be the response. It's not that I don't have a response. It's that I'm not trying to defend Nelson Mandela. I'm trying to defend the nuance of history. That's all. So to the specific response to the point you were making was that no, he doesn't get credit for what he did in the past once he does the opposite at the end of his life. It's that in trying to assess why he did what he did, we would have to look at what he went through to understand what forces people or encourages people to certain decisions. That's that. And as I said, and if we had time, and which we could if we want, as I said, I'm very Chris Hani, Steve Biko, Winnie Mandela when it comes to the Azanian struggle. So I'm just saying, if we want to assess Nelson Mandela's life, it can't just be he woke up one day out of nowhere and had it easy and sold out. That's because that doesn't offer us an analysis that's helpful in trying to understand the history. That's all I'm saying.
Can I say something about no real power?
Okay.
Fine. If we want to say these prominent blacks in positions of power and have titles of power and have the illusion of power, it's like the brother Alex Mingus is a gun trainer. And the thing is, if you wield a fake gun, you put yourself in more danger than having no gun at all, right? We can agree to that, right? If you got a realistic gun that doesn't work, you're in more danger than being completely unarmed. You create danger for yourself. So if these Negroes, from Obama to Nelly Mandela, don't have real power, but yet they parade on the global stage. We see them at the UN. We see them addressing the US Congress. We see them with the trappings of power, the titles of power, and sitting in positions of power, yet they have no power. Then that is a greater crime than having power and failing to use it. Is it not?
Okay, here we go again. No, but here we go again. You in the chat. Hold on. You in the chat are doing the same thing. Hold on. No, I'm saying you and the chat, because I'm looking at what's happening, are doing the same thing. And what I'm simply saying is I'm not defending him. So I don't, and all I would have to say is, look. What I'm saying is I'm not assessing, I'm not supporting his decisions or where he ended up. Quite the opposite. I am simply saying that if we want to understand how we got there, we have to look at the details and what happened. And we would have to go beyond just saying he sold out. That, okay, I get that. But what created that situation would be the next level of analysis if we were to really want to develop one and understand what happened. That's all I'm saying. So we don't have to do this thing you're doing here. I get it. I'm not saying he was a revolutionary. I'm not saying he should have been supported. And I'm not saying he should have been that his latter life was commendable at all. I don't support any of that. And I've been on record as that for years. That's the whole thing with me and Frank Wilderson. That's really the whole thing. Like I keep saying, like my whole thing has nothing to do really with Afro pessimism. My whole thing has to do with his support of the armed struggle in Azania and his critique of Nelson Mandela. So anyway, but so this whole thing about is he with a fake gun and all this, I get it. He was not commendable at the end of his life, but that doesn't explain to us or an audience how he got to that place. That's all. Go ahead, Geechee. I think you were trying to say something.
Nah. I was just wanting us to hit the next button.
So hold on a second. Okay, here we go.
Also, I felt like we should have got a little bit into Victor Bout and this Paul guy. Like,
okay, so all right. So one thing is, I can't yet share my screen. I would have to restart the browser because I'm running on a new rig here today. So I, because of the newness, I can't. I have to. The settings don't kick in until I restart. So I can't share my screen. If either of you want to pull up that link and share your screen, I think you should be able to do that if you wanted to, at least, because all I was going to do was share a screen grab or a still of Charlemagne and them sitting at the table having a discussion with Umar Johnson about Mumia, because I'm not going to play it because it's a Comedy Central piece. And I don't feel like going through a copyright strike and all that other nonsense with them. So people will just have to accept the or unless either of you want to share, a picture of some kind or something, they would just have to, it's Umar, it's Charlemagne, It's a white dude and some other black dude I don't know, and they're at a table. But please don't play it. All right, Geechee, I see you pulling it up, but don't play it because I don't want. This might even get us in trouble just showing it. Yeah. Charlemagne the God, hell of a week. So you see, and so this is who was there. I didn't get a chance to watch any of it, so I don't know what was said. But what I will start with is asking what you all think of the idea that I'm sure some will say that I'm even confident enough to say Sister Pam Africa would say any public discussion of Mumia is a good thing. So if they got into any discussion of Mumia on this panel, the net positive for Mumia is a good thing. My response would be the net positive for the rest of us is not. But anyway, what do you all think?
I mean, I think kind of like when I shared Charlemagne's show with Diallo and he did this critique of it, I think that was probably the perfect response to it. And because I actually sat in the living room with one of my friends in Charleston and we watched the show again because, you know, we all know Nard and they all love him. And his argument was like, well, him just mentioning it will make people research stuff, right? And the reality is that Nard called him I think what he said, a shipping icon, right? Kind of like some black business guy.
And who are you calling Nard?
I'm sorry, I keep calling him Charlemagne.
Do you want to explain why you're calling him Nard?
So his name is Leonard McKelvey. Nard is what we call him. So his name is Nard. So I keep saying it, but my bad. Yeah. So Charlemagne, the way in which he's going to cover these people is going to send people the opposite direction of where we would probably want them to go. And so I didn't watch the whole clip. I just actually was searching it this morning and I just saw them said something about it. I clicked it and all he did was said, you know, how dare he release or get Brittney out when we have Mumia and Leonard Peltier and other political prisoners still locked in. Now, so he didn't really go into
Charlemagne said that?
Yeah. And then he laid the table for Umar, and then Umar started talking, and then I think he asked Umar something about it being a celebrity, and Charlemagne said, why do we get excited about things once celebrity says something? Some shit that I've said to him multiple times that he actually tried to pivot away from, but he asked Umar that question, and Umar said, "Oh, I don't even think it's about celebrities." And then he talked about it's the Democratic opportunity, or they using it to, you know, I guess garner more support. So again, I didn't really watch. I actually when I sent it to you, I was kind of zooming through it right before the show starts, so I didn't really get to see it. But it's a really short clip. So,
wow.
Diallo, did you have any?
I didn't see none of that. I'm just glad Umar's back on his feet. He look, you know, like he's getting it together. You know, keep Umar in your prayers.
Stop dealing with that. What?
He's back on the networks. He worked his way. Hey, I like to see a brother creep on a come up.
No, but so that was kind of the argument. Like, you know, again, I told you I know Diallo wouldn't take the offer, but I said I think because of Jared Books, he would have taken the offer. But he used to argue like he could bring whoever you want on his shows, and he brings people like Umar and Farrakhan, and I was like, yeah, but you're not bringing these type of people on there. I said Jared and or Diallo or someone like that, and so Umar is his go-to guy. Like
you sent me screenshots of your text exchange with Charlemagne, where you were saying basically have Jared on, and he, I think at one point he said he would consider it. I thought that was funny. Someone else very recently, because, you know, what was it? Was it the last time even we were all on? Very recently, somebody asked me or on here about Brianna Joy Gray. And apparently someone I have on good authority told her to have me on in response to her looking to have a discussion about Ye and the Jews. And I never heard. So I never heard from her. So, you know, just shout out to those who would. And then somebody in the chat brings up Boyce. And I know Boyce has said he would not discuss anything with me.
Yeah, Moise ain't doing that.
So I bring that up in part just to add on to what you're saying, but in part also to respond to these constant comments I get about, well, you're critical of someone, have them on and discuss. People are willfully, first of all, I don't think that that's necessary, and I don't think it's helpful. But the flip side is that people are willfully not interested in engaging with me either. So, you know, like, it's not just about what Jared will and won't do. And again, right. You know, and I did drive to Philly to sit down with Umar, and he canceled. So,
but
you know,
I also think that's silly. I think it's silly when you're like reading a book from them or watching an interview from them. It's like you don't need them on there. Like their words are right there. So like
that's true. Or if they say something on camera and that you disagree with, then you just say I disagree with it. But anyway, I just in general, just to specifically to this discussion, I think that the passing reference to someone like Mumia, it's hard for me to say this. But I don't fully, agree. I get it when Pam Africa and others are saying on the specifics of his case, it could be helpful to him in some way. I struggle with that, but okay. But for the rest of us, I don't think it helps in terms of increasing people's awareness and encouraging, positive engagement or support of the issue. If anything, it just gives a fake radical legitimacy to people like Charlemagne and Umar or whoever who would passingly make these references, but without sharing the politics or sustained support or anything meaningful, But in terms of what you said, Charlemagne said about, whether it's celebrity or what Charlemagne or Umar said about celebrity and it being more about Biden in the Democratic Party, or what they're extracting in this exchange of Viktor Bout, that I think is more, where that's that thing is situated. But just a passing reference to Mumia, I think it makes real support for Mumia more difficult.
I agree.
Anyway,
yeah, I'm pretty sure you can miss. You're probably gonna miss. Like you can miss it. It's not like they talked about it much. He just kind of asked the question really quick, and Umar pontificated, and then that's it.
But so the other thing, I'll use this to segue, and then we can do whatever. Because the only other thing I wanted to bring up this morning is somewhat what is like it's the white liberal version of this. Because again, the YouTube algorithm is telling me apparently to start watching more of the Majority Report with SamSeder for whatever reason. That show keeps coming up, and I have watched a couple more of these clips lately. And when he's beefing with Jimmy Dore, I think it's hilarious. So I do enjoy those. But I've noticed that since the explosion of discussion around Ye and anti-Semitism, whether it's my man RMBrown, whether it's I'm forgetting the other one now, but or what I saw on SamSeder, there's like this phony. It's like, for me, a similar thing where there's a phony self-righteous declaration against anti-Semitism, and easy shots taken at a celebrity and at Kanye. But again, JordanChariton was doing it. I'm looking at my notes now. JordanChariton was doing it with Status Quo. Glenn Greenwald was doing it. I think. And I'm going to come to this in a minute. I think what Matt Taibbi is doing with Twitter and Elon Musk is a version of this, but specifically on the issue of Kanye and Jews, whether it's Jordan, Glenn Greenwald, JordanChariton, that is, of Status Quo, not BPM's Jordan. But or in this SamSeder thing that I watched, it's this self-righteous, like, oh, if you don't see that Kanye's anti-Semitic, then you're just part of the problem. and then they go on to take shots either at him or at whoever else is in that right-wing sphere of the political world that they often want to deal with. And we never have any real discussions. First of all, there's no sustained or genuine interest on their part in the conditions or the experiences of the Black community. There's no sustained or deep investigation or experience with Black thought or the rapper or generally Black thinking. There's no real investigation into, again, the histories of Jews and Black people and how they intersect. None of that is part of their thing. They just take this as another moment to I think, fraudulently establish themselves as the legitimate bookend of left-wing politics and punditry. Go ahead, Diallo.
But to be honest, Kanye is not approaching his anti-Semitism because there are many people I greatly admire. Like, just for front in my mind was Kwame Ture was often called anti-Semitic and was often attacked for his anti-Semitism, where he would approach the issue of the relationship between Blacks and Jews, or Blacks, international finance, or Zionism from a leftist and African perspective. I don't think Kanye is worthy. I think they'd be fools to discuss in relationship to Kanye, a man who is voluntarily illiterate, who not only doesn't read, but thinks that not reading and refusing to read is somehow an asset to him, somehow preserves him. A man who is a Christian nationalist. So I don't think that's the right arena. If I'm talking about Kanye, I don't go into discussions about Zionism or the history of anti-Semitism or the reality or fiction of Black anti-Semitism. And I don't go into all of that because Kanye is not approaching, those aren't the issues. Kanye is approaching the issue from ultra-conservative, dispensational, evangelical Christianity, from far right politics. And so that whole, sparring match and then that back and forth, I don't really think these more pertinent issues deserve any place in that, because if you articulate, well, you denouncing Kanye, you can denounce Kanye without anything else because he's speaking out of ignorance. So it's really no need to go into depth and then calling that fool out.
No,
and
but
I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
That bothers me about that is Kanye creates and engages in great offenses against the Black community. He disrespects our ancestors. He disrespects our movements. He disrespects our worldview, our ambitions as a people, and just basic Black standards. But we always talking about the problem everybody else has with Kanye. And my problem with Kanye is that we don't discuss our issues. We discuss what side is the appropriate side for everything else. And real talk, Kanye would never be in this position to be going head up against any other group if the Black community had dealt with him appropriately from the get more than a decade ago when he was flying and wearing Confederate flags. So we set these people up to fall by not calling them out when they disrespect us. No,
but black people did call him out for that. But Black people have no power in creating their own leadership or their own celebrity. So that's not Black people can't stop a Black celebrity from being created. That's not, but that's not my point though.
So Black people,
but hold on. My point isn't that Kanye is right. My point isn't that Kanye has a right. My point isn't any of that. My only point is similar in my mind to what I was saying in the Black context of Charlemagne making a reference to Mumia. These white progressives getting all now feeling a need to comment on Kanye and join the clickbaiting popular discussion of Kanye. They feel a need now to enter this discussion and start wading into the waters of everything you just talked about, but having no interest in any of that. And then doing so only to make the point that he's an anti-Semite and that needs to be condemned and we need to move on. And that to me is simple, basic, doesn't advance us anywhere, and helps perpetuate the cycle that brings us back to these moments. That's my point. And that if they had any real interest in discussions of, again, race, class, Black Jewish relationships, Zionism, left politics, celebrity, the politics of celebrity and all of that, they could be doing that on a sustained basis, which would help make these moments of Kanye moot in the first place. So that's all I'm saying. Now, so that is for me a separate conversation than everything you just raised. So I just, again, want to be clear that as I think happens often with us, is you start arguing something I'm not arguing. So I'm not disagreeing with what you said, and I'm not defending Kanye. I'm simply saying their reason for condemning Kanye is an ignoble one. And that's the only point I wanted to make.
Okay. But I do think,
and to correct you, Dame Dash is the responsible for bringing Kanye, not us. No, I'm joking.
In that way, we could say so was Dead Prez. They had his production as well. But I don't. Anyway,
and yeah, that's another thing I want to say. A lot of these Black people who were supporting Kanye have gone silent. And I think, like you mentioned, Dead Prez. Stick did a whole Kanye dedication about his art, his genius, and all these people who were, lifting Kanye up, trying to provide cover for Kanye, justify Kanye, and all this. When he goes that far, out of pocket, and now they've gone silent instead of saying, "Hey, I was wrong, and he's wrong." I think that's a punk move for all these people, because I bumped head with several of them. Aside from maybe Talib Kweli, who was like, yeah, I was out here calling him my brother, saying he's a genius and providing cover for him and telling people how they didn't understand. But, now that he's crossed the line, I'm going to call him out. And I think Talib's and a lot of these other Kanye boosters, and not just celebrities, but many of his, fans, rank and file fans, y'all making some real punk moves by just going silent on him, because, just 2 months ago, Kanye's telling the truth. Kanye's in trouble because he's telling truth, and people out there boosting him. So, don't go quiet now.
So having never boosted him, I don't, again, that's why I'm saying that doesn't, that doesn't, I get it. So yeah. Anyway,
Cosby's facing new charges.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
What'd he do now?
6 new charges. Yeah. I'm just happy, man. These people I've been hating.
Cosby for assaulting women?
Yeah. Yes. This time it's former Cosby Show guest appearance, people who were like extras or returning, and Cosby Show staffers. These are brand new allegations. And I know that really annoys Cosby, because remember when Cosby got out, he said that he was going to be suing all of the people who made accusations after he was exonerated and released because he was innocent. He said that he was going to begin to pursue all of the people who have brought wrongful charges against him. And I guess somebody got to his raggedy behind and said, you better sit down, because you're going to open up Discovery again. Just be cool, fool. Go chillax in your mansion. So he went underground. He went quiet. And now there's, I think, at least 6 new charges brought against him. And one of the women said that he even put a pillow. She had awakened during the assault, and he had put a pillow over her head, and in an attempt to smother her or keep her from gaining consciousness.
Oh, that's perfectly consistent with that CNN series with what hosted by what's his name that a lot of people were upset with, but seemed to be, I didn't hear anybody saying the facts were wrong or that the arguments were wrong or the details were wrong. I just heard people saying that Cosby was being falsely dragged through the mud because he tried to buy NBC, forgetting that was 30, 40 years ago. And that and that this would be a lot of women telling a lot of lies on camera at this point, with a lot of details that sound a lot like that. So damn.
Well, that made me think of, because a lot of Cosby defenders went silent. I hate on everybody who has any level of success. So, that's my reputation, to hate on people for being successful. And so when a lot of things I've been, going in on Cosby since the 90s and early 90s. And just to see these things play out, and a lot of people who have publicly attacked me, called me everything from a hater or a person who hates Black success, or to call me an agent even for calling out these powerful, prominent Black men. And then when the truths are finally exposed and there's no more, crevices for them to hide in their defense of these individuals, they just go silent, and keep that same energy, or come forward and publicly call them out. Just like if you publicly defend someone, I think you should be obligated to publicly call them out when they're exposed.
So I do like
That's
that point that you were saying also about Kanye. And I think I think I fully agree with that. And I also think I fully agree with this other parallel I'm going to try to quickly draw before I forget to do so before we wrap up, is that people are doing that because they're making conscious choices about where they are politically and where they want to be financially. So when people are quiet about Kanye, I think they're not trying to hurt their business opportunities when in one form or another. When same thing in terms of not coming out to condemn Cosby even, or in some cases. And I also see that playing out that's what I also mean when I'm saying I'm in the way I feel there is an illegitimacy to people who never talk about race, who never talk about Black political issues or relationships between Black people and Jews, now all have plenty now to say about Kanye and his comments. And I feel there's a disingenuousness in that, even as it is easy to correctly to side with the condemnation of what Kanye is saying. That said, the last piece I wanted to bring up today was this story I've been trying to follow a little bit about with the journalist Matt Taibbi and Elon Musk, which I think is another part of the problem, where starting with the fact that Matt Taibbi, much like Glenn Greenwald and much like some of these other characters, have been falsely held up in the past as more progressive and radical than they actually were and never have been. But have also made or are making specific decisions given the current environment, journalistically, financially, so on and so forth. And when they look up and they don't have the Rolling Stone gigs anymore, and they don't have the MSNBC gigs anymore, and these other whatever anymore, they start looking for that check, and they start running for the nearest. I'm muting you, Diallo, just because it's just Mike is picking up everything. Is so that they start running to the nearest billionaire for funding. So remember, that's how The Intercept got started in its initial start, with the eBay founder money. And they were supposed to be the new radical independent journalist outlet. We see that has its limitations, to put it one way. And then you have, I think, what has happened with Matt Taibbi. He finds himself at a similar place, and then all of a sudden Elon Musk comes to him and says, here's an opportunity to work with one of the most famous people on the planet, one of the richest people on the planet, and to look through an archive of emails and whatnot and data that Elon Musk finds acceptable to be written about and combed through by Matt Taibbi. So that's it. And I see people, and I admit some enjoyment in watching people, in that, white progressive community beef with each other and argue with each other and criticize each other. I get some enjoyment out of that. But if I step back and try to, make some real use out of it, I think that that's largely what is ultimately happening, and we're going right back to the true to form, to the base origins of that conflict in journalism and elsewhere, of how do you perform independent radical media if you want big money from the people that you're supposed to be radically independently critical of. So anyway, I see some overlap in these stories and some of what we're saying, and I'll just, but let me just stop there and let you all jump in or take us somewhere else if you want.
No, I agree. One of the things, I guess I got into a little social media scuffle yesterday about a sister that I know who, like many people, don't comment anything about anything other than, like, she's a veteran, so she might talk about being a veteran. And then on a post I said that Brittney's free, but Mumia and the other political prisoners not coming home. And the fact that you're going to have to Google Mumia right now is, proof that of a bigger problem. And it's like, that's condescending to her. She's upset. She's mad. A couple, some people who follow me who are aspiring actors, they upset or whatever. And the reality is, like, they're not even one, reading what the post said, but two, it's almost like the media is literally giving them the threads and what to say. And I guess it's frustrating for them when they called out on it. But yeah, I mean, that's just kind of, the celebrity. I think Hood Comedy is right about it. But the celebrity analysis is like, man. I mean, even people who claim that that's not what they're doing, they literally have, Fox News or CNN talking points, and it's hard to have that conversation with those people.
Yeah. In fact, I'm just checking now. Speaking of Mumia, any updates? I think so on Monday, I know we're going to have, I don't know if Ricky's joining us yet, but and maybe she'll respond in the chat now, but Dev is going to come back Monday for some portion of the show. We're going to talk about the film Farhad. And I think we may also hear more from Mumia organizers in advance of the December 16th hearing. That is a follow-up to the hearing we were just at a couple. Oh, okay. Thanks, Ricky. Whoops, I hit the wrong one. Okay, thank you. That's a follow-up to the hearing we just went to a couple weeks ago. So Monday may be a whole day of a whole morning of Palestine and Black liberation. But that movie, and if you get a chance to see it, please do. It's on Netflix, and check it out before the show on Monday and join the chat. It's a lot. It's a lot, Coco. It's a lot.
What's the name of it again?
Farhad. And it's a very powerful film. First of all, as I'll come back to it, it's that's the young woman who stars as the, and it's no Farha. I'm sorry, right? Farha. It's not right. Thank you for that. Farha, not Farhad. Thank you. Farha. And it's a lot. Very well done. I'll just at least say that there's no spoiler alert needed for that much. It's a very well done film, and it's just another reminder, just on that level, of how much good work actually is out here that we never get encouraged to see. So even without the politics, even if you never have any thought about the politics or the story, it's the details of that history. It's just a very well done film, well acted, well paced, well shot. The sound, everything was very well done, beautifully done. But the content is golly, and they push it. I mean, just like real life, you know, they push you to deal with the real story in a real way, and it's real, and it's difficult. It's difficult. So if you have like something light on your roster, you know, save that, you know, get to this quick. That would be my method. Deal with this earlier in the day, in the evening, maybe even while the sun is shining. Which is how I watched it. Because you know, I admit a certain level of being impacted by these kinds of films, so I definitely chose to watch it during the day, and then, you know, spent the latter part of the evening, you know, with family and doing light stuff, because it pushed me a little bit. I haven't been pushed like that since Rabbit Proof Fences. That's the last movie that broke me. When I watched it, I broke. And this one, there's a couple moments where I was like, oh Lord. But so anyway, definitely no, it was on Netflix. And I'm not trying to boost Netflix, but that's where that's where it is. It's on there, and to whatever extent they deserve credit for hosting that film, they deserve it, and we should watch it. So, but anyway, we'll get into that on Monday, and I'm waiting to hear if we're going to specifically about Mumia. We're going to have another discussion about Mumia and his situation. Maybe on Monday, if not later on in the week. So, but anyway, fellas, as we start to head towards a close, anything you wanted us to come back to, bring up?
I definitely would like to even go more into this white left that go right. You know, because one of my favorite writers, Derek Jensen, who was a far right left radical environmentalist, is now a right wing, you know, why I left the left. You know, the leftists are the true intolerant ones. The left are the true oppressors. And now he's playing footsies with the political right. So
now he rocking with civilization now.
I don't know. I think, you know, there's a very powerful Nazi environmentalist movement, you know, or even you ever heard of Creation Care? That's the right-wing Christian evangelical environmental movement. And couching environmentalism in being stewards of God's earth. So they want to do all the right-wing Christian bullshit, but, you know, plant trees in the process. In
the UK.
It's global. Creation Care but the
Episcopal Church,
yeah, but there's also Nazis. I mean, Hitler was an environmentalist, and Hitler was a vegan. Hitler said he only couldn't continue his veganism in the war effort because of, you know, supply chain issues. But Hitler would hold dinner parties and admonish his guests who would eat meat, who would take the meat options, and praise his guests who chose the vegetarian and vegan options. You know, so. I mean, there is a
real quick. My bad to cut you off, but we did forget. I see people in the chat reminding us we did forget to the South Sudan story.
That's what I was about to say.
So let's do that. But I cannot share my screen. So if either of you want to try to bring up that story you shared with us earlier, Diallo, Geechee, otherwise we could just talk through it. But yeah,
put it in the chat, Diallo, that link you had. But I actually was going to say that, like, because I wanted Alex to talk about, he has one of the organizations he's with, they do some ecological work and land work. So I wanted to kind of segue into that, but I was going to talk about this situation too, because of
I put the link in the chat. Look, I said it before.
My computer is still loading.
When Naomi Klein, and with support from Democracy Now! And the rest of the white left, worked to get Michael Moore's executive produced film Planet of the Humans removed from YouTube, and for a time had it blocked on YouTube. That's where I was like, and then when I watched that documentary, I saw a little bit of what the two of you were talking about. And you can see, if you watch that film, that if they're, to the extent they're correct, all of the major environmentalist movements are managed by conservative, fossil fuel burning, major corporate right-wing entities. So yeah, go ahead.
Environmentalism used to be a white elite endeavor. It was understood in the earliest manifestations from the Sierra Club. The outdoors were a place for leisure. And so wealthy white people would go out into the country to get away from their industries, to get away from their plantations, and go out. And so, you know, before the FDR New Deal, the average worker in the United States, white worker, didn't have time to go camping or time to enjoy the outdoors or go to the national parks. They didn't have the money or resources. So the origins of the environmental movement are embedded in the white elites. You know, it was another vanity thing for them, you know, to protect the woodlands for their enjoyments, for their camps and their sporting events and big game hunting. Preservation of nature was done for big game hunting. Remember the teddy bear and Theodore Roosevelt and all that shit. So environmental consciousness and environmentalism for working class, poor grassroots movements, that's a relatively new phenomenon. So it actually, if you read the early literature and look at the oldest environmental organizations like the Sierra Clubs, these were wealthy white people who were also by default right-wing or ultra-conservative.
I hope all y'all, look, real quick, all the people bigging up Ben Norton, shout out to Ben Norton. He didn't beat me to calling out Naomi. So let's just be clear on that. And I hope you all are in their chats, you know, bigging up BPM as much as y'all are in here bigging these folks up in our chat. Just call it out.
So,
just you know.
Have y'all talked about the killer robots?
No.
But
let me ask this question though. Since we gonna get into the Sudan story, I got it up in the chat. In the chat. Have y'all heard of what is it? What is it? I'm about to say botanical sexism. Like, so one, the US doesn't have or doesn't allow female trees to be in public spaces. So they try to ban female trees, and which they say is like, oh, it's going to be messy, but really they don't want people to feed themselves. And then other countries have female trees. Like you can go into the mall and mangoes and shit like that. But the US intentionally bans female trees and in public spaces. So I don't know if y'all heard of that, but that's what made me think of. No, I was thinking of that when I read this story about how these people are being, you know, displaced from their land, and if anybody tried to grow food, they're gonna be snatched up.
So it says here, starvation being used as a weapon of war in South Sudan, report reveals. International community urged to intervene as hundreds of thousands forced into refugee camps as homes and crops destroyed and aid workers are attacked. Starvation is being used as a weapon of war by South Sudan government, forces against their own citizens, an investigation is found. Deliberate starvation tactics used by the government forces and allied militia by opposition forces are driving civilians out of their homes, exacerbating Africa's largest refugee crisis, according to the report published on Thursday. I have not. So first, I just want to point out that this is a piece in The Guardian, and this is not an analysis, but I'm definitely not speaking on this report, but I just want to say that there is some history of them being misguided in their coverage of their quote unquote former colonies, I don't know. So I just want to point that out. But anyway, go ahead if you wanted to pick up with any of that or say more or read more of the story or whatever. And by the way, the report that they're referencing, I'm just looking at it here, is called No Choice But to Flee 2022 and comes from the Global Rights Compliance Center for Information Resilience. I don't know anything about this group, and credits the cover is credited the UN Human Rights Commission. So anyway, just wanted to add that as well. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
You know, this is a good segue from what we were previously talking about, because in his book, Tropic of Chaos, Christian Parenti, he wrote about in the time the ongoing conflicts and brewing conflicts that were going to be driven by climate change and global warming and ecological disruption, crop failures, flooding, intermittent storms, more powerful storms, and flooding of coastal regions. And, you know, I had been following this Sudan atrocities and tragedies way back when the Janjaweed Muslim Arab militias were bombing and raiding Africa prior to the breakup of Sudan into South Sudan. And, you know, ecological factors and ecological conflicts in Sudan and Somalia are a big factor driving the war. So when you have climate instability married to U.S. and Israeli weapons, you know, it was crazy to me to see people from the United States complain about weapons dealer being set free when the U.S. and its proxy Israel are the largest weapons manufacturers and distributors. So, you know, and places like Sudan, if you go and just Google image the fighters, you'll see they don't have any type of agricultural technology, advanced agricultural technology. They don't have advanced communication infrastructures, but they've got some of the most advanced, up-to-date weapons you want to see. I mean, some of them have like the old Kalashnikovs dating back to the decolonial era and that, but many of the youth soldiers have some of the most up-to-date and pristine weapons. It's kind of like when ISIS was driving those brand new Toyota pickups across the arid sands, and like, where are they getting their cars? Like, who is giving these people car loans to purchase a whole fleet of matching vehicles? So I'm sorry, go.
No, I saw that too. So one of the things that I guess is most frustrating when people just immediately say, well, like Viktor Bout is this warlord or the biggest arms dealer in the world and blah, blah, blah. And even in this report, like the U.S. was saying how it was providing arms and ammunition for both sides. And then at a point, they wanted to sanction or embargo it and so they could stop the conflict. But then at the same time, they also given like billions of dollars in humanitarian aid. So like I agree, it's like a perfect segue because all of them are all in connection. Right. But I think the language of and a couple people I've literally shared because Jackie Marcel told Jackie to like, hey, could you explain what you did a couple months ago? And she posted it, and I was sharing that to a couple people, and you could see how quickly people just shift, kind of like, oh wait, he's a sanction buster, I think what Jackie called him, as opposed to this warlord how people have been calling him.
Lord of War, that movie with Nicolas Cage.
Merchants of Death and shit like that. Yeah, right.
Like but which by the way, just like Lord of War did and Roland Martin's show was doing this morning, they put the context of Griner, Viktor Bout, and all of this in this anti-Putin, anti-Russia, anti-Soviet, it's all their fault type of thing. And it's like, you know, so and to both of what I hear from both of you just now is that all these years Viktor been locked up, somehow war has gone quite smoothly. Like somehow people got all their weapons. It's like Obama was able to drone strike even, you know, children and whatnot, you know, even with Viktor locked up. So somehow, you know, he couldn't have been, you know, the all, you know, the all spark is what I was about to say. Some Transformer. He went anyway. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
The United States is the #1 small arms manufacturer in the world, and the #1 small arms distributor in the world. And the U.S. And Israel is #2. Israel, when the United States brings in level sanctions against it, because they level sanctions against entire nations, but also particular political groups or factions. Israel comes in through the back door as a proxy of the United States to funnel weapons to those people that the United States can't openly or directly sell to. And like I said, it sends a chill down my spine that U.S. citizens can be so absurd to believe that Russian, you know, and even the Russian, he's a Russian oligarch, a Russian capitalist who were also set up by the United States when Bill Clinton stabbed Boris Yeltsin in the back and promised a Marshall Plan type thing, and they allowed the Russian oligarchs to strip mine the Russian economy and resources.
But
so
Diallo,
even the Russian arms oligarchs and arms dealers are bastard offspring of the U.S. imperialists and the U.S. weapons infrastructure.
But Diallo, just like Obama would have done more for us had it not been for those damn Republicans, Clinton would have been able to do more for us if it wasn't for that damn drunk Boris Yeltsin. Because remember, that's the narrative. Like Yeltsin, we could have really set y'all up, but your boy couldn't stay off the drink. And
Clinton couldn't stay off that loud pack either, though. See what I'm saying?
That's not part of the narrative, though, Geechee. You you go add another stuff into it. You know. But no, yeah. Go ahead.
But no. So one more thing, like the United States, in their document said that they're ready to help the transitional government do right by the people. Again, now they are funding the government with arms and ammunition to attack the people, to stop them from growing their own food. They're funding the people who get an attack. Then they're giving some humanitarian aid, and now they're highly invested in making sure that the transitional government does not repeat any mistakes. And I guess the mistake that they're repeating is working with them in the first place. so it's,
well, look, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
No, destabilization for purposes of preventing people from getting market value for their raw and natural resources and prevent states from developing their own internal infrastructure, thus making them permanently dependent on the industrial capacity and extractive industries of the West. It's so tired, man. I just want to, makes me want to holler. It's the same hustle they've been running for more than half a century. It's this neo-colonial grind, and we always pretend like, it's just tribalism or some shit like that.
No, I mean that's what the problem I have with this story, and where I have to start by sharing and professing my ignorance on the details of this history. So like, because of just what you said and what I've, I saw Dev's comments in the chat about the U.S. being behind the creation of the split between South and Sudan and all of this, and playing upon the existing African-Arab divide and Muslim-Christian divide and any other divide that they can, find to play on. But this is the point, and to what you were just saying, Diallo. When I'm reading this article here, again in the Guardian, which in other areas of my research some years ago, I would note that the Guardian is pretty good when it would be criticizing U.S. foreign policy, but when it came to assessing British foreign policy, particularly in Africa or any particular African countries, goings on, they fell right back into traditional imperial journalism. And then so I read here, South Sudan gained independence in 2011, but entered a protracted and bloody civil war in 2013. And then that's it. I mean, and then they just go. It's just like it's just so just that narrative of there they go, the savages. They get their freedom and immediately plunge into civil war. Nothing, no discussion of U.S. involvement or any European involvement or any legacies of colonialism. All we're left with is echoing in my mind, at least, are the comments from a few years prior to that, when Obama did his presidential victory tour in Africa, saying colonialism isn't the problem in Africa. Your corrupt leaders are the problem in Africa.
Right. So
like,
from
there it is.
So none of the relations from 1956 on that U.S. joining, leaving, opening bases, closing bases, and keep going back and forth. None of that has anything to do with what's going on. But I tell you this, Jared, they are using one of your lines when they said that one, help this transitional government. It's time for austerity and a well-revised spending priorities. So they ain't circulating the Sudan dollar, and that's why they ain't doing anything.
That's what it is. They don't have financial literacy down there.
Yeah. Hey, I'm trying to tell you, make that dollar stretch.
Oh, wow.
Before we go, do we have time to speak about
Sure.
the killer robot drones? Everybody,
I don't know anything about that. And if you want, we can even take a few minutes to come back to talk more about the white liberals, which I have no problem. There's never enough of that for me. So
it just breaks my heart
yeah.
every time I see a white leftist leave the fold. It just breaks my heart, because I have so much hope for these people. They seem to be on the verge of civilizing themselves. They seem to be on the verge of, just when they see them on the verge of civilizing themselves, they return to their right-wing psychopathic ways. Just
sound like you're
so I
rooting
continue to have hope and root for the Europeans, for white boys, but they let me down every time. But San Francisco Police Department and the San Francisco public voted to allow the police to have killer drones in November.
Robots. Yeah, I did see.
And everybody is outraged that the police would have killer drones. Now, of course, this is all about me, like most things. I'm really outraged because back in 2016, I was going on about this killer drone stuff and nobody paid me any attention. Everybody forgot that the first time the police ever used a killer drone down in Dallas, Texas, to kill a black man.
Yeah.
That Xavier, what was it? Michael Xavier or Micah Xavier?
Wait, Micah X, right?
Yeah. Micah X, the dude.
Wait, is that before? Was that before Dorner or after Dorner?
After.
They used grenades on Dorner, though. I
thought okay. I thought they droned him too.
They threw concussive grenades and smoke grenades, and then they claimed that the spark, sometimes the gas from the gas grenades and the spark from the concussion grenades can create an explosion. I would not doubt that they used drones or something, but it wasn't approved for use at that time. So they came up with this elaborate story on how Dorner, and we need to stop acting like Dorner was some type of armed insurgent freedom fighter. That dude was a coon of coons. Most of the people Dorner killed in his rampage were black people. I'm not saying you.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
No. Wait a minute. But isn't this the reverse of what you claimed about Mandela? If doesn't the end of life positive behavior wipe away the past transgressions?
He was shooting out with the pigs because they arrest him. I mean,
he wasn't shooting at pigs. Most of his victims were black people or people of color. His victims were not white cops. Go look, just Google image.
Black cops and their family.
Garner's victims. He was not fighting against the police. He was seeking redress because he was rejected by the LAPD. It was his desire.
But keep going though. Wait a minute, because I read the manifesto. Keep going. His rejection was in part because of his condemnation of the racism in the department.
By racism, he meant that he wasn't allowed to conduct himself like the white boys. It's a lot of Uncle Toms out there. Like Clarence Thomas also denounced racism.
Then you must have you must have information that's not public, because that's not what was in
I just read the story. It's public.
No, because that's not what. Wait. If you read his manifesto,
the manifesto, he got
the manifesto
story.
tells a very different story. The manifesto clearly says, I was not wanting to participate in what white cops were doing to black and brown people, and I was not wanting to allow them to continue to do it, and that's what led them to condemn him, and that set the So I'm just saying.
Now, are you talking about him wanting a promotion and move up in their ranks, or are you talking about? You hear something that said he
From
wanted
what I
to
know
beat
about
on
his
black
military record and his
I didn't read the manifesto, so I read it wrong, Keontae. Is that what you're saying? Because I definitely read the whole thing. So it's been some time.
Half of his victims, he killed a black man, Pacific Islander women, and 2 white men. His entire life. But okay, y'all want to put him in?
That's 50%. If you playing baseball, he's going to the Hall of Fame.
Bar.
He batted 500 then Diallo.
Okay, hey, if that's what
that's not bad.
I'm gonna go back and review that manifesto, because every Veterans Day I see people posting.
No, listen.
I never see that. I ain't see that.
No. My thing, the way I remember it happening was that he killed the first people to show up. He didn't go targeting So if a black and a brown
he targeted.
He went and got them.
He went specifically to find that black brother and kill that brother.
Back to real quick, that the police chief, his daughter is the one, his daughter and her husband,
right.
That was intentional.
That's right.
He wanted him to feel the pain.
That's right.
Yes.
So, but all I'm saying is, if we're just gonna go, I'm not.
You can come in.
In my initial reference to Dorner, let me mute you while you get your household situated. So, my initial reference to Dorner had nothing to do with whether I thought he was right or wrong. It was just I thought I was trying to get the timeline right, because I did think that he had been droned. So anyway,
I just remember him hiding in that building right next to the cops. So the cops had a building set up. He was literally hiding in the next building.
I thought he was in some shack. Wait a minute.
He was in a shack.
It was in the woods. It was the woods though, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking like building, meaning like it wasn't like a building.
But here's the thing. Back in 2006, the Dallas Police Department used an explosive drones, the exact identical, and a robot to go in, even though the shooter was cordoned off. They said he hadn't shot, and basically they just and no one. And I'm like, yo, they're using weapons-equipped drones to kill people. U.S. citizens, the PD, and nobody was saying, "Oh, he was shoot, he was crazy," and everybody was focusing on,
RGB,
whether he was a righteous freedom fighter or whether he was wrong for what he did. But that was the test case, and there was no outrages, and they always loved like the MOVE organization where they're dropping gas bombs from the sky. Even the first time they used aerial assault with it against U.S. citizens wasn't that Rosewood, or was that Tulsa, Oklahoma?
Tulsa, they did it in Tulsa
in 21, but Rosewood before.
One of those conflicts.
They definitely dropped stuff
where they did aerial. The first ever time of using an aerial assault by the state against citizens within the territory of the U.S. Black people. The very first victim of an armed, weaponized drone used by a police department against a citizen was again a black man. So, we had, half a decade to mobilize against this, and we slept on it. And now it's going, if it starts in California, and anything about California economics, culture, policies, that's kind of like the incubator for policies, good or bad, because, a lot of environmental and clean air policies started in California and went across the U.S. So if that California being the size of a nation itself, is an incubator. So if they are going to allow the mobilization of armed killer and weaponized drones by local police departments in California, it's inevitable that it's going to become a nationwide policy.
So Tulsa was in 21 and Roseville 23. And back to Black Wall Street, Jared, you had a chance to run down on what's that guy name? Damn it. Boyce Watkins when he came to BBW, Baltimore Black Wall Street on 25th Street. He was down
there. That's not what BBW stands for.
I was about to say that's not what I understood. That's not what I understood.
Let me go Google that real quick.
That's what
you
it said.
Black
now.
BBW. Let me
BBW.
I don't think you're using that properly.
Black Wall Street.
Let me go look that up.
BBW is Baltimore Black Wall Street, and y'all don't circulate the dollar. That's why y'all hating.
When I hear BBW, the last thing I want to hear connected to that is Boyce Watkins. All right, that's the last thing. The last.
He's a BBM.
Hey.
But no, I'm not running down on anybody because first of all, I don't like leaving the house. But I don't. All jokes aside, if he or anyone wants to have a serious discussion, I want to have a serious discussion. I don't want to just run up on somebody. I want them to be prepared. I want them to be ready, and I want in a sanitized environment, and all of that. But anyway, no, that's yeah. But no.
Hey, listen. You got
references.
Hey, you got to. Hey, you got to see the Black Wall Street, the Baltimore Black Wall Street commercial when she's talking about all the businesses. Literally everyone, the barbershop, Shea Butter, T-shirt. Literally everyone. It's like a couple T-shirts, and it's kind of tragic. And
hey, chill out, man. I got my own little T-shirt hustle going on over here.
You ain't got no Black Chicago Wall Street neither though.
Black. I'm not a sucker MC. I'm sick of new Black Panthers, Black Wall Street. Can we come up with? You're a hip hop historian, Dr. Ball. You know damn well this sucker MC is not allowed in our community. Like, come up with a new term, a new branding, new logo, label. Something.
They about to say Black. They about to say Black Rodeo Drive too. So
right, some Black Beverly Hills. With so many other things we can blackify.
BBW. BBW, there you go. Boom.
We got Wakanda now, so.
Oh, there you go.
This is sacred. This is Wakanda.
Anyway, look at here. Look, the World Cup has started. Brazil versus Croatia has kicked off, so I need to go. More important things are taking place here in the world than what we've been talking about. But fellas, anything you want to share with us about alert us to that's coming up for you or anything at all? Anything at all? No.
You can catch the Bro Diallo show at Diallo Kenyatta across the social medias.
The links are in the show. My bad. Say it again.
At Diallo Kenyatta across the social medias.
All of both the links to their platforms are in the show description already. So definitely follow up. And we have a request to come back to Dorner next week. I'm down for that. I'm down to revisit. Like we could create a list. Dorner. Let's get a whole list of a Dorner list and not a hit list, but a list of Dorner like figures.
Yeah, let's not antagonize.
I just want to be clear, and I'm not trying to antagonize Google and YouTube either. And all their other state representatives. I'm saying a list of Dorner-like figures, and maybe we could assess what we think of.
Actually, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Professor William Mackey came up with an essay called "Crazy Niggas," and he did a detailed history of Black mass shooters or Black men who took up arms.
Really?
Yeah.
Why don't we get some links, circulate that, and make that the homework? Let's make that some homework.
Yeah. So we can talk
Crazy.
about look up maximum emergency compensatory justice. Maximum emergency compensatory justice. we can discuss that, Dorner, and whether or not these various brothers who took up arms actually carried that out, or whether or not that's something that's viable. It's from Neely Fuller.
Oh, Neely Fuller wrote this?
Oh, here it is. Yeah. Here. 1 second. On the bookshelf. This book.
Oh, yeah.
And he talked about where it was appropriate for Black people to take up arms and go on shooting sprees or whatever. So Dorner could be argued to be engaged in and he has specific rules that if racism becomes too much for you to bear, if racism and racial aggression becomes too much for you to bear, and you're willing to lose your life and take lives in retaliation, he gives specific rules and details about the appropriate way to go about it that increases justice and prevents harm to other victims of racism.
So you're saying that should be studied with handbook, huh?
That's a lot I don't agree with.
Wait, real quick, before I lose sight of this, because this person brought this issue up the other day, please, in advance of the end of a show or in comments, send this our way. Help us in advance of the show, not at the end of the show or during the show. That would be of great help, because, you know, I can't even click that link from the chat. You know what I'm saying? So like it's you know, so do that.
Yeah, I'll send the link.
Railway. What is it? Railroad Workers United. Road.
Is that
Workers United? Because, you know, like none of us do this as our full-time or even real job, right? So like we could use all the help we can get. So like if it doesn't help to send it now, unless, you know, let's see here.
Was that Black Union movement that I sent a while ago? Is that what it is?
That's not what this is. This is the Railroad Workers United. It's an inter-union cross-craft solidarity caucus of railroad workers and their supporters from all crafts, all carriers, and all unions across North America. We urge union railroaders to continue being active in their craft union and to join RWU in building solidarity and strength among all rail workers. We work with union rank and file railroad workers, but we welcome yet to be organized rail workers as well. So I don't see a specific statement on the current issues. The most prominent statement is in support of public ownership of the railroads. That sounds like socialism. Nope.
Well, the rails are all publicly funded. There's not one profitable private rail company. Every single private rail company requires government support.
Nope. That's socialism. And either that's not capitalism or it's too white,
and it's not Wakandalism.
We're not doing it. It's not. Oh, that I gotta say, shout out to Morgan State students. We wrapped our semester yesterday, and that point I made about investigating the political economy of Wakanda resonated more than anything else that I said yesterday when that film was brought up. I said, and I asked, I want to see, maybe I need to, if anybody has a link or any info on this, I'm interested in that. If anybody else has done something on this, maybe written a piece about this, but that deals with the question of how Wakanda is set up and why it's never discussed. Like, I said, what is the farm to table process in Wakanda? What is what is the process that goes from crop to mass produced garment? Like, where is that process and who's doing it? Like, we see the pretty people, we see the technology, but who turned that plant into a weapon? who picked that crop and turned it into, you know what I'm saying? Like, who picked that plant and delivered it to be manufactured into something else? Like, we don't see that.
The movie did suggest that there was a caste and class system within Wakanda, which is why M'Baku had an insurgency to challenge T'Challa. So we could assume that, and we also saw that the industry that, remember when T'Challa was thrown over, he was rescued by a fisherman from the Hill tribe. So we know that the fishermen, the agriculturalists are the M'Baku, who was originally in the Marvel comics a gorilla, a giant man in a gorilla suit, and I guess those optics just didn't fit in our modern sensibilities. So
all right, well, there it is. So let's pick up on that. That's right on. That's good. Anyway, did you want to bring something? Are you looking something up? What's in this?
That's something somebody just sent me. It's a Kyrie Irving KanyeWest hoodie. Stand with my bros.
Man.
And it's $80.
$80.
Yeah. At least 3 different people have sent me this link or tagged me in this.
Good Lord, that's a lot of money.
They don't want me to be my best self.
Share that screen, Geechee, for us. Can you do that?
They don't
Which
want
one?
me to be my best.
Okay.
People, stop sending me this thing because
the Kyrie Ye hoodie. Stand with my bros.
Oh my gosh! Long as y'all buy me one, it can
go
with my Yeezys that I got.
Because these cats out here burning their Balenciaga, so they need something to replace. They're burning their Balenciaga gear now in solidarity with the children. So,
shit,
to save children.
But you don't like that level of solidarity?
Hell no, I think that's dumb as hell. First of all, I ain't got no Balenciaga or Gucci to burn. Every time there's a co-op, I can't join because I don't participate in the mess in the first damn place.
I have bought Nagase footwear.
What is that
before,
in for? What?
You bought whose footwear?
From Nagase footwear.
Nagase. Right, yeah, that's another thing. Nagase.
Nagase. Oh, okay.
Is that what they were saying? I thought they were doing the anyway, whatever. It don't matter.
Niggas.
But yeah.
Niggas.
This is disgusting.
Now scroll up a little bit so the hoodie gets on the screen.
This Italian niggas.
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna burn your Niggas footwear. Look at this.
Cancel Adidas,
Chase Bank.
Nike, and Chase Bank.
Oh wow. Okay.
What that say across the bottom? I can't see what.
It says cancel
Adidas, Gap, NBA, Nike, anybody else, Chase Bank.
Wait, are you serious?
Hold on.
Who did the type? Who did it? Oh no.
My computer's slow.
There's no way that's what the shirt gonna say for real.
Oh no, Ricky, I have supported them. I supported them. I bought shoes from there before. I got some red, black, and green shoes.
Government.
Did you know they were some reactionaries? What in the hell?
I never expect any of these businesses to be truly radical. I just know them to be black and to have some sort of aesthetic that I appreciate. So
who's
Tariq?
No, I'm not.
Let me see some shoes, man.
But I don't have like
these are people. Oh
yeah.
They make these shoes. Okay, I know
those right. Okay. I got a pair of those that are in the middle there.
Yeah, I remember these.
I think those were the ones, or one of those. I had gotten a pair. I wouldn't mind getting those slides either.
Dream, but stay woke.
But I don't.
That's a little bit pricey.
My computer's.
I don't know, Diallo, man. I find myself, I guess, to your right on this issue because I appreciate a little bit of this just sort of general black, like I get it, like the general, like we support them, type of thing. Even as I recognize that they're not worthy of, they don't deserve it. But I just, I get it.
Listen, this is very hard for the black.
I'm not mad at that.
These
Are
are
you
the
talking about
slides
with
that Queen
Kyrie
Nzinga
and
wore when she
Kanye
did
or-
Party
and
with.
I
Or
think
them
I'm
shoes?
responding well, no, definitely the shoes, but I am talking about Kanye and Kyrie because because part of what I'm admitting is I like this in the face of the JordanChariton,
Nat Turner boots.
Glenn
Taisha.
Greenwald, SamSeder, whoever. Like in the face of all of that, if you don't say Kanye's an anti-Semite, then you're part of the problem type of language. Like I'm not good with that. So I'm not good with what they're doing with that. So on some level, I appreciate the sentiment here of we're not letting you cancel somebody else. Go ahead, man. What happened?
I'm saying
I wouldn't buy shit from nobody putting out a goddamn Kanye Kyrie hoodie. They couldn't give me shit. If I had shit from them, I'd burn it. I think ideology is extremely important. And I'm sick of black people always debating other people's positions and trying to figure out on what is the black position? What is the black ideology? What is the black point of view?
So that's what I'm saying. That's what I fully agree with.
And so we act like the only conflicts that exist in this issue is Kyrie versus the Jews and Kanye versus the liberals and the Jews, when the real position is they have disrespected black people before and above and beyond anything they could have done against the Jews. They have received more support. They have received more validation from our community than any other community. And to run around saying slavery is the choice, for Kyrie Irving to advance a violent, vicious, apocalyptic cult that has stated that slavery was not only deserved, but slavery was God's divine will.
But this
so
is my problem. Though.
Allow me to finish.
But you've said all this already. I didn't mean for us to rehash all this.
Like I go out and disrespect my people, and all I got to do, if I disrespect and shit on my entire race and my ancestors and our descendants, is go out and pick a fight with some other group that black people have issues with, and we're so politically immature that we'll just rally around me. So I go out and do all this cooning, selling out minstrel behavior. But then I go out and say something about the Jews, or I go out and pick a fight with the MAGA people, as if we don't have our own dignity. It's like an abused woman, and she sees her abuser be attacked by somebody else, and then she jumps in on the side of her abuser. I say we don't have Stockholm syndrome. We have battered spouse syndrome.
Okay, but Diallo, but what I'm saying is again not a defense of these gentlemen, but what even with what you're doing, I think is part of what perpetuates the problem, because it's not even as simple as they have betrayed black people, so therefore they don't deserve the support of the black community. They have been, all of that commentary leaves out all of the what is that noise? Is that Diallo? Yeah, let me mute that real quick. All of the context that would lead to the material conditions that either of them or their community exists in, all of the context about how these two would have become famous in the first place, all of the context around why these two would be constantly encouraged to speak on these issues in an environment where these issues are never properly discussed with substance and genuine interest. All of that gets lost. So I'm not saying so in trying to even assess why a community of black people would, even in your way of putting it, ignorantly, viscerally supporting them, we don't even get to an investigation of that. The media, for instance, environment that produced the audience, that recreates the audience, that would find a Kanye and a Kyrie as legitimate spokespeople on these issues, is itself ignored. So I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I am saying that I think that the approach to simply condemn them for not being radical enough ignores why they would have not been produced to be radical enough, why they would have been positioned to be acceptable until they say or perform in ways outside of the acceptable sanctioned lanes of behavior. Like, all of that gets ignored if we don't step back from even our own personal views of these individuals or of the things that they're saying, and start to look at why are they there in the first place to be said, and then why is the audience there existing in a way that it does to accept what they say is legitimate or to go so far as to defend them. That's what I'm trying to say.
I think that point of view or perspective is missing my point. I'm not mad at them for not being radical enough. I don't care about minstrels and ball chasers failing to be radical. I don't expect them to be radical. I do not see them as leaders or taking positions. What I care about is the people, the masses of African people. And the masses of African people have to determine for ourselves, what is our line?
But how can African people do that in a media, in a colonial, and in a political context where Kanye and Kyrie are presented as legitimate spokespeople? That's sort of the point I'm getting at. So you're talking about an audience without considering how that audience is created. I get it. I don't want Black people to look at Kanye and Kyrie for anything other than the music or basketball. But at the same time, or at least until they demonstrate having earned the right anyway, whatever. But in trying to understand why so many African people would accept what they're saying, or is I think another piece that you are not considering.
You are speaking in terms of an audience. I'm speaking in terms of a community
who has been made into an audience, who has been reduced to an audience. I am speaking in
context of a community. We don't just consume media. We dwell in spaces amongst ourselves, in our churches, in our homes, in our intimate and interpersonal relationships. In overall, Black people have to establish a line. I find myself observing Black people in the community debating everyone else's lines. We talk about the gay people and the gay rights movement and what lines they won't allow to be crossed. We talk about the Jews and what lines they don't allow to be crossed. We even talk about the conservative and liberals, where the liberal so-called cancellation, which isn't real, there's no such thing as cancel culture, or the right wing and the condemnations they level. I seldom hear any discussion of what is the line, what can you do to offend the agendas, the values, the esteem of African people that will mobilize our community.
Right.
Independent
so
of any
the
other
reason
fact,
you don't
I'm
hear
not
that
finished.
though, but Diallo, I mean, come on, man. You know, I'm truncating my commentary because we're at the end of a show. We're at 2.5 hours, and you're not truncating yours, and you're repeating yourself at this point. So forgive me for trying to chime in here. But I do need to point out that my discussion of the reduction of the community to an audience is considering the broader context in which media are just one part. So I'm not saying it's all about the media. I'm saying the media are reflective of a relationship that Black people have to the society that does impact all of those other institutions.
So
the bottom line.
Quick question, Diallo. So who's creating these domains of discourse, and what tools are they using to give these people information of things to argue about?
What do you mean domains of discourse? There are several. Long before, even with hip hop music, Black people, we have our own lines of communication. We have our own mediums that either where we create independently amongst ourselves, or we create Black exclusive or Black oriented spaces on these white dominated platforms. Black people are talking to each other about Black business and Black points of views free of white participation all over the place, whether it is the Black church or kitchen tables, barbershops. We have the means. We've been communicating with each other. We developed our own damn language damn near.
free of participation or influence? Because you white people don't have to be in a room for you to be running.
Yes,
their lane.
we all are influenced in this system. Yeah, that's a given. There's no black person on the planet that hasn't been influenced by black people, and there's no by white people, and there are no white people that haven't been influenced by black people. Of course, you're never going to find that pure, uncontaminated space. But what I'm saying is, as black people, even if every other black people, like Dr. Clark said, it's better to march into hell by yourself than into heaven with a bunch of fools. We can't use the ignorance of the masses or the failures of the masses to not take a stance. And my position is we need to have our own line, have our own standards, have our own esteem, independent of anybody else. And if anybody from within, especially race traitors that violate those standards, we need to have protocols. And if I'm going to be the only person in the world that's going to do it, then fine, I'll do it by myself. But we can't.
So, but it's not.
Like,
well, that would be silly. But that's not what anybody here, or certainly I'm not advocating, and I'm not arguing against that. What I'm saying is that I don't think you're assessing enough the difficulty it is to create what, for instance, Glenn Ford used to talk about in terms of the bright line issues that black people should focus on and organize around. The reason he started Black Agenda Report was because he was trying to advocate to a specific black radical intelligentsia the bright line issues that we should be focused on, the political poles we should hold on to your point, and make real for public policy and organizing in the black community. But he also was aware, and this is why he created Black Agenda Report, that he was fighting against a media environment, an educational environment, a political environment that created the opposite. So it's not that again that I disagree with your critique of where the black community is as an audience, but what I am saying is I'm wanting you and us to be more mindful, and this is why I think it's important that we be more supportive and engaged in political organization of what creates that audience. So again, I was just talking about it the other day, that New Yorker magazine article that I loved from a couple of years ago, where the author asks whoever he's talking to, did Fox News and Rupert Murdoch create Donald Trump? And the response was no, they created the environment or the circus into which this clown could emerge and become something that he was. That's what I'm saying is happening to us as a community. We're being created, the circus is being created for us, into which Kanye's and Kyrie's and Charlemagne's and Boyce's and whoever else can emerge as meaningful or substantive leadership or legitimate spokespeople that leads to and encourages the confusion that ends up in the churches. My own work around buying power has been really a perfect microcosm of this problem. It is looking at how the process of dominant imperial Western capitalist ideology and messaging gets rebranded and distilled all the way down to the smallest black outlet in pundit to be taken up into black churches, black barbershops, black corners and neighborhoods, and have black people speaking of very white conservative politics dressed up as black progressiveness. That's so I'm just simply saying, I'm not again agreeing with that or defending it. I'm just simply saying, if we're trying to understand why Kyrie and Kanye exist and why their message is resonating and why people are creating commemorative sweatshirts, then we have to be more honest or not more honest, more willing to focus on the process that creates what we hate. And then we have to be willing to join in political organization to erase it.
Yeah.
Allow me to just quote Dr. Bobby E. Wright, and that'll be my last word on the issue. It's a very short quote. Dr. Bobby E. Wright said, "Black people are the freest people in America in one respect." And he said that is a black person can do whatever they want to in violation of the black community, and the black community will not sanction you. The black community fails to sanction our internal traitors. And that is an essential essential requirement.
But Diallo, what is missing from that quote? What is missing from that quote is an analysis of why Black people are that way. So I'm not saying Wright didn't perform that analysis, but you aren't, and that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
it's not a Black community though.
As I was attempting to state, we don't incentivize our freedom fighters. We don't incentivize Black revolutionaries because we show as much love and solidarity to coons, con men, and suckers as we do to our.
What is the analysis of what
now? I know why, but now in this space, as we talk to each other as three Black men with no white men around, can we at least, I'm not against talking about the whys. I'm asking, I do it. Do you do it?
I'm doing it here.
Fine. Do you do it, Geechee? So we got 3 Black people on earth that are willing to do it. So I understand why we don't do it. I understand menticide. I understand the indoctrination. I understand the propaganda. But what I'm talking about right now is the fact that it is necessary to do it. If we can't even convince our people of the need to do it, then what difference does it make as to why we won't do it? The first thing we hear, is this necessary? Is this appropriate? Is this beneficial? Is this proper? Yes, then fine. Let's diagnose, dissect, and correct. But the first thing we got to do is say, this shit is wrong, this shit is inappropriate, and it's inexcusable. We can't, we do it for this reason. No, it's no reason to do it. And now once we do that, I'm all down for the dissection, for the diagnosis, the prognosis, and the cure. But you got to you got to say, is it a disease? You got to call it a disease before you can tell me about diagnosing and curing it.
Yeah. So anyway, real quick, I think one of the things that we talked about when Nefa was on here that, I don't know if that conversation went where it should have gone, but what Maynard Jackson created with this black card, which we was trying to recreate, but there has to be some kind of programs based off of this analysis that you have to start to disabuse people from the celebrity analysis that we all say they had. You even said, Diallo, like you have these black celebrities using white boy right-wing talking points, and you can literally replace Umar with so-and-so. And so if you even acknowledge that, you can see how powerful that is and how much of an obstacle that is for us. And then, so, okay, now that we know that, what are we going to build, or what can we collectively build to get black folks more thinking in a line, rather it be something around 10 to 20 policies that directly impact black people, and it being plastered everywhere and always talked about, so that we can't be distracted with bullshit and we can be more focused on these things. That has to be built, and like Nefa said, there's organizations already out there doing it. So are we joining those organizations, bringing our analysis and strategy to the table?
I don't understand why black people think we have to follow rules that no one else has to follow. Like we have to have this perfect precondition before we can act on other issues or take other actions. We're not unified. That's why you don't need perfect unity. Look at in terms of whatever we need to do before, I think the foundation is ideology. Ideology is all. Everything springs from ideology. And without the appropriate ideology to guide us, whatever resources or opportunities come our way, they will either be squandered, misdirected, or missed, not even recognize what assets or tools we have available to us. So I think what we must do is things like Black Power Media, articulate and act. Also, I think that we can start to promote and advance what they call cancel culture, what I would call consequences, just basic consequences. It's very obvious that famous and prominent and leading blacks from the political and entertainment and business arena do have some level of fear and concern about their standing with the black community, that the community can quote unquote cancel them. I think we need to organize and weaponize and double down on that and expand that there will be consequences. There are certain lines that wherever you are in the public eye, there's certain things you just don't do, and there's certain things you're not allowed to say without us leveling consequences one against the other. Carlos Cooks, whom we often go back to, remember his grocery store boycott? And his Jewish grocer, his slumlord movement. in terms of calling it out, promoting the boycott, and then the various levels and tiers of consequences for community members who violated the sanctions. I mean, there's several techniques.
And then, but all of these people that you've mentioned, as great as they were, none of them were based on any of our standards, or at least mine, none of them were successful.
Wow.
None of them won.
Wow.
Well, I mean, obviously, look at the situation we're in. So it's not to say that they were wrong.
Wow.
It's to say that they weren't successful.
Okay.
I mean, you can't say, look. Well, hold on. Look at Harlem. Look at Chicago. Look at the diaspora. You can't say that Bobby Wright, Carlos Cooks, Dr. Clark were victorious, and I don't think any of them would have claimed that. So the question would be, what worked against any of their efforts? And then from my humble perspective, and looking at primarily, certainly with an emphasis at media, the media environment today is way worse than it was during their time. The ability to present and magnify and distribute messages of anti-Blackness and confusion is way greater today than it was during their time. The ability to develop resistance media was easier during their time than it is today. It's obvious. So we even gave an example of it earlier today. We can, as all the three of us can get up here and we could talk about Mumia for hours. Umar can show up on a Comedy Central sponsored platform with Charlemagne for 5 minutes, say something completely empty and devoid. Likely, I haven't heard it. Charlemagne the same, largely empty and devoid of substance, and get much more attention on that subject than we would. And that it works to negate much of what we do among the audiences we would look to work and circulate and build rapport and have join with us. So that's the only part that I feel like that's a big part of what I feel like you're leaving out of your own equation in your I think over condemnation of the analysis and the interpretation and the capacity for that among the Black community that has been so highly targeted, that, by the most powerful and weaponized country in the world with the most sophisticated media propaganda system ever seen.
Wow.
And you laugh it off. You laugh it off. So before you respond, before you respond, I do want to, let me thank the super chat. Thanks, fellas. I appreciate the conversation. I truly enjoy the intellectual pushback on both sides. Just want to say thanks for pushing me left with a Pan-African perspective all year. Right on, and thanks for your support, ZZ Lion Dad. Go ahead.
I don't even know if any. Well, I don't know if you hear a disagreement, but I don't really hear a disagreement. But maybe I'm missing a disagreement.
Oh, I hear the disagreement, and it's about to come back right now. Go ahead.
You say Black people, listen. Growing up in East Hills Village housing project, Black people within our community on a street level, there was an ability to impose sanctions, laws, and standards on a community grassroots level. And if that's where we have power, that's where, as Claude Anderson said before he lost his goddamn mind, if you have power, you utilize power at whatever you do. And there's communities right now where you go. When I first moved to Chicago, some people took me aside and like, bro, you don't wear these type of clothes. You don't wear this color. You don't do this in this neighborhood. You don't do that. You don't do that. We have the ability to level sanctions. It's just that the Black community, the radical, the left, the progressive, the revolutionary element, we just don't choose to acknowledge this power. And my son just left for school. And he walks 3 blocks to school. His grandfather, whom he sat on his lap, his grandfather, who he's known, who has passed away, would go to school in the same way in Mississippi and see bodies hanging from trees. To say that our ancestors have failed us when they have set us up and put us in positions no Africans
I didn't say
from
that.
Their time,
You're misquoting me. I did not say that. I said specifically the work of Clark, right? The people that you mentioned, I said specifically the names you keep dropping as examples of what we can do. None of their efforts have succeeded. And that's not a critique. That's not a condemnation
you said our
of them.
Ancestors haven't succeeded, right? Is that what you're saying?
You're hyper. right,
when
you're
we got
misrepresenting. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
young
Go ahead.
people,
Finish your point, man. Go ahead.
First of all, the struggle is multi-generational. And we can't discount the progress, the accomplishments, the contributions of our ancestors.
But that's the point, though. That's the point, though. Yeah, if you said if it's continuous or protracted, saying that it did not succeed didn't say it failed. It's just saying that it did not succeed yet, right?
Okay, it hasn't succeeded yet. Fine.
But that's all he's saying. So he didn't say fail.
Okay,
So when you
yes.
hear fail,
no, I said failed. I said failed, but I did not say that means that they were wrong, and I did not say that.
I say they didn't fail. I don't think that.
Okay. Well, I'm looking
to me,
again. If
are there still revolutionary Africans here carrying on? Has white domination succeeded?
But that's not okay. But then we haven't defined success or failure. So we're talking past each other. So my point is, you're saying as if my point is you're bringing up three specific men, and my point in saying that they had failed is trying to draw out the point that even as wise and studied and accurate as they may have been in their analysis, there are greater forces at play that prevented them from succeeding. And by what I mean by success, for instance, we're materially and we're whatever else, we're still having these same issues, and we're still having these same debates, and we're still having these same crises repeating themselves, and in many cases worsening. So what I'm also responding to is our reduced capacity, given the media, technology, and environment specifically, and others, to respond and address it. That's what I'm saying. So you want to again, you like to score points and throw up these big headlines to distract from what is actually being said, and then you misquote me, which is a problem. But but don't miss my point. And it's also not to say that if somebody fails in something that means that they're themselves wrong or to be condemned. It's just to acknowledge the failure and then to learn from it. Ultimately, and then I'll stop here. But to say that what has been my point throughout this last part of the argument, that if we want to understand why they failed or why we're in this protracted and worsening condition, we would have to go beyond the simple statement that they failed, or that the community hasn't done this, or Black people just can't do whatever. That those statements don't help us understand why we are acting and choosing the choices and making the decisions that we're making, or why the efforts of these giants and others has not worked. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think one of the things, maybe even in the next episode when we cover the Christopher Donut thing, but saying something hasn't worked at all, it just failed or has yet to succeed. I think that conversation, it sounds like it's getting convoluted. And then when you said, Diallo, you said something about we have the power to sanction, but we're not recognizing that. Are you saying we're not recognizing it, or we're not organizing it? Because it would seem that any political organization, real quick, any political organization that's organizing, they actually recognize the power. That's why they're trying to organize it. So when you say recognize and organize, which one are you saying?
I think in a lot of ways it's both. I think that we have not fully defined our interest. We have not fully drawn the line in the sand, which requires work. I understand what the shortcomings in that desire and that effort, and so I think it's both of those. I understand there is a desire for Black people to have that, though, because every time there is some other community, when a prominent individual runs afoul of the gay community, runs afoul of the Jews and these other established, or runs afoul of the Hispanics, what's the first thing Black people do? They come out and say, well, when they dissed us, nothing happened. When so-and-so said slavery was a choice, he didn't lose his contracts. When so-and-so, when this ball chaser, when we complain. So that identifies a desire in the Black community to have standards for ourselves and level consequences. No, I see you shaking your head.
No, I'm saying we don't give them the contracts to lose. So if
I understand that, I didn't say
No,
that they
no,
did. I'm just deal with what I'm saying. What I said was, when this person loses contracts, there is an outcry from the Black community. Is there not?
because of what the media is doing, right?
I hope it's not because of what the media is doing. When you've heard and you've seen Black people state, when they dissed us, nothing happened. But when they said something like the baby is the most recent victim, the baby's entire career has been upended because he offended or said some homophobic slurs, right?
I guess.
Okay.
I
The
don't
baby
know if
was
he's
the
a
top,
rapper.
and there was an outcry from Black women in particular, and the Black and other people in the Black community said that the baby and these other artists go around using the N-word, calling Black women bitches and hoes, and disrespecting and advocating for Black death, and and the companies don't sanction them. But when they say something homophobic, all of a sudden they can't tour. They lose contracts and endorsements. Is that not the fact? And the Black community identifies and understands this, right?
Yes, and who?
Okay,
and
so
who's behind all of the? Who's behind?
Let me just know who's behind what. Listen, so
the sanctioning and the things that are important.
That demonstrates. Forget all that for a moment. That demonstrates amongst Black people that there is, at least amongst us, whether we have the capacity to or not, there is a desire for Black people to have. If we lack it, we desire that when people disrespect us wholesale, that sanctions and are leveled against them for their disrespect of us. There's a desire for that, right? Even though it doesn't happen, there's a desire for it, is it not?
Yes,
there's also, to complement that desire, there is a necessity for that. We need that. Do you not? Do you agree?
Yes, and I think
and then we can move on, because before you waste time trying to get something, you need to have an understanding of whether or not you should have it and how it will serve you. So the next step is saying, well, we don't have that. They don't do that. So that next step is saying, why do we not have that power? And how do we go about securing it? Right? And one of the ways, how have Black people gotten everything in this country? How have we gotten everything, from the ability to sit on the front of the bus, to drink out of the water fountain, to attend universities?
Collective struggle.
Right. And what precedes collective struggle?
Organization.
Organization. What precedes and feeds organization?
Ideology and political education.
Exactly. So I'm just stating the ideology. And we can't just say, well, we don't have this.
But nobody's arguing that. That's the point. Nobody's arguing. For instance, how many of us talk about Mumia, Matula Shakur? How many of us do that, right? And then what happens when Brittney Griner get on TV?
I don't mean to cut you off, but unfortunately, I do have to go. I do actually have something at 11 o'clock that I'm supposed to do. But this is the only thing that I would just wanted to say, Diallo, is that at the point of ideology and the point of ideological formation, at the point of dominant ideas being circulated and narratives formed, Black people are at the weakest point maybe ever in the history of our time in this country at being able to form those narratives, at be able to produce them on our own. The ability to have those narratives and dominant ideas, those governing ideas, as Nkrumah talked about, manicured and produced for us, to have our public opinion shaped for us, that has been more sophisticated and developed in its sophistication and dispersed under a more consolidated level of control and ownership than ever before, with more penetrating technology, tailor-made to the specifics of every demographic. We have to, again, I'm not saying this is the only thing, but that alone is not appreciated enough in trying to assess why the messages of a Bobby Wright, of a Kwame Nkrumah, of a Ture, of those of us gathered here have still struggled to penetrate, to be heard, to resonate, to have people take them up and do what you're suggesting be done, to do what I'm suggesting be done in terms of political organization. That's the point, a part of one of them, I think, that you're leaving out in the quick condemnation to get to the end to say we're not ideologically clear and formed and operating.
And it's the reason
why
y'all
have changed up on me. I'm not gonna call you on it, but you changed up on me.
No, I didn't. That's been my argument since day one.
Oh, so I must have misheard when you were initially arguing that Kyrie and Kanye are not really worthy of the condemnation, rejection for their treason. That
I didn't say that. Because I didn't say that.
I was wrong. I said I was wrong. But now the issue is you fully agree with me. You fully agree with me that we should bring down the hammer on these motherfuckers. It's just we don't. It's just obstructions in the way that prevent.
No,
us from
what I'm saying is.
down.
What I'm saying is I'm more mindful of why there is so much support for them, and I'm more interested in assessing why that support exists, and in part it's because the work we're all doing
that we
You're not going to look. I'm not doing your.
People,
I'm not.
And we need to organize and secure.
Honestly, I don't think that we know. I think no. What I think we need to do is organize so that we have more political power to prevent people like them becoming spokespeople for us politically, et cetera, and so forth. That's what I would say. What the debate about what they're saying to me is a far second, if that, to why they're there and why they're encouraged and why those messages resonate in the first place. That's and again, we don't make any advance because from your end of saying condemn them, and from the end of those I was critical of earlier saying let's hold them up so that we can only condemn what they say, and nobody wants to take the time to assess why they say what they say, why they feel what they feel, why they have an audience of support, why they're platformed to say what they're saying, why the critiques of what they're saying are liberal and soft in and of themselves, and on and on and on and on. And then we just get back to the same thing. And in a few years, another celebrity is going to pop off and you'll be back here saying, I told you we should have been, and and I'll be all right. Anyway, my bad, man. I got to return this call, but go ahead. Take the last. No. I'll give you each of you the last word. I won't say.
So all I want to say, let's use an example of Zakiya, whatever her name was, that cut Jared off, right? And Jared is trying to figure out why and who, and attack the reason why this young black girl who's 20 years younger than you. My bad, Jared.
It's all good, man.
She about 20 years younger than you. And why would she say this? Why? And when she leaves, the next girl gonna say that, the next man. And why would I be in Jabari barbershop and we talk about Jewish people don't stick together, right? And we settle that. And then a young kid from West Baltimore come in the barbershop and says, yeah, because Jewish people, they stick together. Like, so it's one thing to attack the boy because look, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. But it's also another thing to look at why in the hell is he saying this and how could we prevent it? Why can't we do both? So it's not saying that give him a pass because he has menticide. We're not giving him a pass. It's just more so of getting to the root of why he actually have menticide in the first place and working on both of them.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, fellas. Thank you very much. Peace to the remixers. Thanks to the vigorous chat. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to Alex Mingus for coming through. Thanks to Josh and Aaliyah for helping put the show together. Thanks to all of everybody for everything. Please like, share, subscribe, do all of the things. I'll be back on Monday. A lot of stuff coming up over the weekend. So check it all out. Support everything. Thanks to everybody once again. Peace if you're willing to fight for it, like Fred Hampton used to say. Catch you next time.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.